All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights, but of course we did not have fights last week, so this is this week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night. UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Teixeira. We're also going to be going over some of the news from other organizations around the sport, and to do all of that with me, as always, my good friend, my co-host, the Ohio player, and a man whose balls are always hot, from what I've heard at least, Chase Parton. How you doing, brother?
You know, we are always living good. There was no fights on Saturday, so that was unfortunate. There was some fights in some other areas that we'll get into, and so that was a decent change of pace. They also, I don't know if you noticed, there was a UFC replay. We didn't talk about that beforehand, but I will bring it up. There was a UFC replay that they played on YouTube, and it was the Poirier and Alvarez 2, I believe it was. I don't know if there was anything that you wanted to note about that. I know I didn't catch that, but if you were out there and you caught that one, good for you on the replay. Was it fun? There was some big names on it. I know that, but
Yeah, no, I didn't catch the replay either, but I got to remember that they often do that for nights when there are not events, so that, going back and watching some of the history of the sport. I like to do that. We've done that a couple of times. We're going over some of the older events and stuff, and that's a lot of fun and a good way to re-immerse yourself in the earlier stages of the game and see some of these fighters that are at the top of the sport now, where they were back then, and then some fighters that maybe have dropped off since then, that kind of thing. So yeah, I gotta to keep that in mind from now on, that even on nights when there are not events live, that there are still something going on. There's always something. So
yeah,
yeah, good to
absolutely.
note.
Yeah, for sure. And anybody out there who's listening right now, before we start getting into anything, I want you to take the time and challenge yourself. Go to the channel of the person you like most right now and like the video, and just so we can see who's doing better out here. Honestly, it's a little competition. I think I'm the more entertaining co-host out of this podcast, but I digress. I will leave it at that, and we will continue on. But
Well, yeah. No, so what it is that, we simulcast this podcast to both of our channels, Yama Show over here, CP Smalls for Chase over there. And since we're going to be doing predictions today, after we go over some of the other organizations and what's going on with them, we figured that, you can tell us who has the better takes. So you listen, you like whoever you think has the better takes on these fights coming up, and you support that person, and you let them know that they are the one that is more correct and the other person is an idiot. Now, I mean, of course, we both have our feelings about who's going to be the person that's going to get the better votes, but you tell us. We'll come back next episode and let you know how each of us did.
yeah, I think this will be a good gauge. Honestly, with the prediction style, you let me know if I'm cooking, and I'll know because I'm looking at those numbers. So we'll just keep it right there. And like I said, the more entertaining person will give the numbers that proceed. Whatever you want to say.
Indeed, yeah, and Vitz King coming in with a good question. What if you like both? Not acceptable.
Nope.
Unacceptable. No,
Unlike
definitely
it.
not.
I'm
Yeah,
just kidding. Please don't do.
yeah,
But
you're
anyway,
right. Exactly. No.
we do like a little funny, but no, seriously, that is a good little challenge for you guys out there. Appreciate you guys for listening. Everybody that's been in the chat so far, my boy Zach, Nothing But Muffin. There was some other ones. Vitz, I forget the Rick Allen, of course. I can't forget him. He obviously wants somebody to fight, and we didn't have fights, so we're gonna go over some that we did have. So
Absolutely, yeah. So I know that you were doing a little watch along of the One event, which I thought was really, really great. We love One Championship around here. I've always said that I think One is the if not the best, they are at least a very close second best, in my opinion, to the UFC. And from what I understand, at least watching a little bit of your stream, this One card from last weekend was pretty good.
It was damn near everything that I needed to see to have my mind sold because, after watching just a few of these, like my initial thought, well, my actual thought going taking away, excuse me, is that like the people in Muay Thai that I'm watching right here on this, because this is a Muay Thai only card, by the way. I know one has a lot of different combat sports, and there's kickboxing, grappling. We'll talk about that in a second. But either way, the Muay Thai, the shots that these guys will willingly take over and over again are nuts, because when you watch it in the UFC and you see somebody land a flush knee or they land a straight elbow that slices over the top, like, oh, that is dangerous. Like they are compromised. Something is wrong after a shot like that. These guys here, they don't even buck. They just take 15 more elbows. There's some that we'll talk about here that just didn't even care to get their face smashed, or, sternum kicked in. These guys were animals. And it is really one concerning how deadly these guys look and how crazy their records be for how many fights they have and how young they are. But man, is this the fight game right here. This is not for money. This is not for fame and glory. This is just for the straight pure ass whoopery. And I just love this shit. Holy God.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Well, the one thing I do remember from when I was hanging out in your chat was we were talking about the 3 knockdown rule. And you're saying, is that even like a good or a bad thing? Is it necessary? And I was like, absolutely, it's necessary, considering the amount and the damage that these guys take. I mean, the amount of fights and the amount of damage. It's like if they didn't have a 3 knockdown rule, these dudes would be comatose like
Here,
early in their careers.
Here's why I asked it. And I think I did agree with you by the end of the card. But here's the difference. I started the card saying, wow, 3 knockdown rule, thinking that these guys would get hit and fall down. They do not. They do not fall. They don't even show that they've gotten hurt. They get hit with everything in the book. They go full steam. It is literally the cartoon fight. Like it's just a fight cloud that you watch. And it really is a spectacle to see, because they really just want to fight each other so fucking, and I don't even understand it yet. Because I'm listening to the commentary. I'm not really knowing what's going on. I just hear the names and like, okay, he's doing good, and make my own assumptions. But some of these guys, man, it makes me feel like they are fighting for not too much, but they are putting it all on the fucking line, and I kind of love it. Like this is crazy.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, anytime that I've seen Muay Thai in one championship, I'm always amazed at the performances. Even what we've said, because Vitz King is a huge Muay Thai fan as well, and we early on in Yama, we were trying to catch more one. Would love to go back and do some more of that. Hopefully, we'll have the time to do that coming up. But the worst fights that I've seen in Muay Thai are still fan-fucking-tastic. These guys, like, there's no disengagement. Like, you want to talk about timidity? We in MMA, it's like got some guys sometimes sometimes in fights where the referee's got to be like, hey guys, come on, we got to pick up the pace here. Never in Muay Thai have I ever seen that.
There is a little bit, and because I love to disagree with you, there are a little bit of clinching, and it's like, okay, ref, get them off, get them off. Like it's a little boxing at that moment where it's like, okay, they're clinching and they're not actually hitting each other. They're kind of stalling. But when they're not doing that, it is 100% balls to the wall, gas, no brakes. Like, oof.
Yeah, I mean, and that's normal for the
Yeah,
sport, whatever. But like, I'm talking about like you never see a dude like scared,
I
backing up,
agree.
disengage. Like, you know what I mean?
Agree.
Like,
I
there's
100% agree.
nobody is ever across the ring. They're
Yes.
always right up in each other's faces. Like they're either at kicking distance or they are clinched up close or whatever. Like yeah, it's amazing the level of balls that these dudes have. Like men and women, of course, that
Yeah. No,
go in
for
there.
sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, I appreciate that you've been getting into it. Is there any specific fights that you wanted to talk about? We do have a
Yes,
card here.
yes, go all the way to the bottom. This
Okay.
card actually started with a grappling submission,
Oh yes, I
that
saw that
matchup.
clip. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
so I wanted to bring this up because I remember specifically before the fight started, I said, "Japanese grappling is next level right now," and this could not have proven my point any better. I'm not even gonna lie to you. And yeah, you can talk about the competition, whether this would be able to be pulled off in mixed martial arts. I don't care. This dude pulled off a guillotine while on his back. I know this doesn't make sense to you guys because it was just that crazy. He had his head in his arms, but he also was able to sweep around and take his back. So he was basically inverting bro's spine, and it looked very painful. He tapped very, very quickly. Arguably, is that going to end somebody's career? Are you really going to break something? I don't know, but it looked like it hurt, and he's never been hit with that before. So yeah, hell yeah, I'd probably tap like, holy shit, what is he doing to my body? Like, this was an insane feat for me to be right about, just to be honest. Like, people wanted to talk about, oh, who the fuck, Japanese grappling. When you know, and this one right here, this guy, Inshiguro, he's got something good in his sleeve. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, and I had mentioned, of course, that jujitsu comes from Japan.
Dude, you got to tell me this I want to hear it from you right now because I was reading your thing. Tell me a little brief story of what was it? How did they get from Japan?
Well, I would have to full on defer for like the full story
Okay, okay. You're
to well, but MMA on Point did a great video about the history of jujitsu and the sport, basically the sport in general, and
Yes.
like the evolution. But yeah, basically jujitsu made its way from Japan to Brazil with a single family. Like it
Mhm.
was a single master that took it over to Brazil and popularized it amongst Vale Tudo, which is an early form of no holds barred fighting that was popularized in Brazil, predating mixed martial arts. So yeah, the way that it navigated through and became what it became today was essentially just started in Japan. One family takes it over to Brazil, and then it explodes in Brazil, goes out into the rest of the world, and now you have jujitsu practiced everywhere and such a major part of combat sports. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. No. So I really loved this matchup right here, the submission grappling. We have some other promotions. Karate Combat is another one I'll throw out. We'll talk about them here in a little bit. They do have a pit grappling series, and it is fun. It's a little more celebrity hokey now than it probably should be. I mean, I know that's kind of the gimmick of the sport at this point, but they do have top level guys from the UFC that'll go over there. There's probably some other top level guys from other promotions that are going in there that we just don't know. But something like this, I thought was a very nice way to start it. There only being one of them was kind of wacky, like, oh, grapple, and then no more. But it was cool. It was a nice way to introduce the card, I'd say.
Yeah, well, and I like that you get a variety of different combat sports all on one. I mean, like, all on one, no pun intended, but I mean, one championship gives you a good variety of them. You're saying that a lot of this was Muay Thai, but it's
It
not
was
always
only
that
Muay Thai.
way.
Yeah, I know. I think specifically the Friday fights, at least how I'm gathering it, the Friday night fights, those might be just specific Muay Thai, or maybe
Mhm.
this one just happened to be all Muay Thai. I don't know how exactly it works, but
Sure.
there is a card coming up that has some Muay Thai, kickboxing, MMA, and then there's whatever.
Right.
So
Yeah.
love that about it. Moving on from the submission grappling,
Mhm.
the third fight up, Ubaid Hussein,
Yes.
Pakistani guy, very, very good. This is actually the fight where I was questioning myself because I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, the Pakistani guy, he's winning. Like, he won the first 2 rounds, but I obviously don't know how to score Muay Thai. I'm being told in the Discord, whatever you think the scoring of Muay Thai is, just probably assume you're wrong because it's very difficult. I didn't think that. I didn't think that at all during this. I thought I got most of the picks right as of what I would judge the fight. Like, yeah, he's winning. Like, what I would say is the encounters, whatever you want to say. I'm not breaking it down by a statistical scoring pad, but in my opinion, the Pakistani guy won. We were going down to almost a robbery, apparently, but it was a unanimous decision. So I thought, great on me for knowing a little more here. Would like to actually backtrack one more. There was a French lady who was a Muay Thai one fight before, and she was getting her ass whooped, but she threw a lot of kicks. So I was also being told that the kicks are going to add up more on the scoring. But I also thought Gabrielle was winning. Next coming up, the next one I want to talk about, the Avahat Gordon. It's the fifth fight, the Golden Boy Gordon. This guy right here. Now I came into this thinking, when I see a guy in here, I want to be able to pinpoint who's going to make the transition. Which one of these guys is coming to the UFC and bringing this Muay Thai style? Now, I could be far off because this is the first card that I've watched, but this Golden Boy Gordon dude, he's fucking good. The reason I think he's different and the reason I want to make this leap is because he doesn't necessarily fight a traditional Muay Thai fighting style. Yes, he does encounter. Yes, he throws a lot of elbows. Yes, he does knees, but he does a lot of spin varieties, which you don't see in here because you can get just pounced apparently. But he does a lot of spin kicks to the body that land, and he was shrugging this dude to the ground like it was no fucking problem. Like it was funny because Fairtex was very short compared to him. So when they were in the clinch and he was having to jump to try to knee him, and then after a while he would just sweep him and just drop him on his ass. And like it was at least showing the instincts for other things are there. He's not just somebody that knows how to do Muay Thai. It looks like he knows Muay Thai, but he also knows how to mix in a little karate, a little taekwondo. Like it looks like he's mixing the martial arts, therefore in the sport, of Muay
Yeah,
Thai. But
I can
this,
appreciate it because that's one thing, in general, we've talked about a little bit before, at least me and Vitz anyway, about like why we don't see more fighters from one making the transition. Of course, we've seen a couple, and for different reasons, though. I mean, that's the thing that's interesting to me. It's like a lot of the ones that we've seen, Rainier de Ritter, people of like that. I guess we've seen people leave the organization for business reasons, but we don't really see. I guess Ben Askren, that was a unique situation, of course, with the trade with Demetrius Johnson. Unique situations we see. We don't see a lot of people who are just like quote unquote lower level guys who want to make their name in the UFC just come over after racking up a couple of wins. It's not as common for one championship for some reason, but you got people with these crazy styles that like if they're fighting Muay Thai and can mix the martial arts decently on top of that, what's the reason? So I don't have a good answer for that just yet, but it's nice to see that there might be some other people who are of the caliber at least.
no, yeah, and what I will say about Mr. Fairtex here, he looks just like Jekka Sergey. I don't know if that means anything to anybody, but he is one of the guys that I'm watching, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, these guys are different than what we see in the UFC. When I talk about a dog in the UFC, I mean, guys, I don't know if they last here. Like, this is the real junkyard. This dude, Fairtex, I swear to God, ate a million fucking shots. Like, and he didn't give a fuck. Like, he got wobbled a couple times later in the fight, but I mean, you would have never thought he was done fighting. Like, I even remember in the Discord, they're like, they don't really like decisions. So he might just fucking fuck around and go all for it in the third round. And he did. He really tried to fucking go for it. So I will give him very, very good props there. Okay. So
Oh yeah.
going into the next fight, this is where in the card, because this is after four straight unanimous decisions. I was sitting here saying to myself, these are all small guys. Muay Thai is a very small guy prevalent, sport. Like, at least for what I'm seeing right now, these are all 125 and under basically. And so going into this fight, I'm saying, okay, I'm going to see another 3-round war where it's just two little guys that just throw everything at each other until the bell rings. And was I surprised here? Because holy shit, for 118 pounds, the dude, Anonymous, I know that was the joke at the time, sorry, but he threw fucking bombs. And then, like, he was landing on the dude, and you can tell when somebody's connecting. He was connecting on all these shots. And shout out to his opponent. He definitely did not want to go out, but the uppercut from hell just put him down and put him out. And it was, for 118, it made me think, like, holy shit, in Muay Thai, I mean, this is really unexpected. Like, yeah, I mean, for four straight decisions, and then the lowest of the weight guys come out there and fucking, put it on them. That was super impressive to me. I really loved this performance right here. This one was great. Let me see. Then you go up 3 more fights, I think, to the Alexei Balco. This guy here had one of the most brutal knockouts on him to date. Like, I don't know who had done it better, because Mr. Jing Sengalek, he was he threw the perfect combination. He threw an overhand, it whiffed, and he came back around with a wheel kick and knocked bro stiff as a board, and again, I'm in awe at this because I'm watching decisions and I'm watching wars. Like, these aren't boring decisions, these are wars. And then I get, again, another crazy fucking knockout. Like, when it's a knockout, it has to be something insane, because these dudes aren't going out unless it's absolutely life or death. And this one right here was a fucking brutal one. And then to end the card, I This fight, it was okay, but Mr. The blue corner, not even going to attempt that one. I apologize.
Yeah, Suri Yenlek, poor Yen Ying.
He also surprised me because this fight was going in a way that I did not think it was going to be a finish because it didn't happen in the first round. The other ones happened in round one. I'm like, okay, round one finish. If you're going to get a finish, it has to be quick. You're going to have to just get it over with. This guy weathered the weathered the first storm very efficiently, came in and knocked his opponent stiff between the ropes. And it was absolutely beautiful. And I think it was the end of the card, I thought there was actually more. So it was my own fault for being let down. Like, oh, like there's no more fights. And then I kind of just like, blew it off like, oh, that was the main event though. Like I kind of fucked that up in my mind, which is my fault. But this was awesome. I really enjoyed watching the entire thing. I didn't get to catch it live, but being able to flip through the fights was awesome. Not gonna lie. Watching some of the preset setups, they don't really do a whole song and dance when they're getting introduced or anything. They just get them out, take off the headband, and then Vaseline to get them in the cage. So it is a very quick promotion, and I just really loved this event. It was really fun.
Excellent. Yeah, no, and I did want to mention, since I just touched on fighters coming over to the UFC from one, shout out to Lazy Bed saying that, yeah, Marcus Buchetta making his jump from one to UFC should be interesting indeed. From what I understand, this Buchetta is quite the grappler. So, in being a heavyweight, it's going to be very interesting. We talk all the time about how heavyweight is one of the lesser skilled divisions, and a lot of guys who just go out there and throw meaty hooks. Having ground game is going to be a huge decision maker there.
I think what this is a great opportunity to bring up what I wanted to talk about because you talk about this heavyweight grappler who's coming from one. The main thing that I wanted to know before this, and I know I'm gonna loop back around to it. The main thing I wanted to ask before this started is, what do you think of the WWE style ring? And a lot of people said, nope, but hold on. And a lot of people said, I don't like it because the ropes, when grappling, it's not an efficient, like it's not a solid wall. They can just go through the ropes and then you got to break it up. And which is a very valid reasoning. But I would like to hear your hater reasoning of why the WWE ring is not the perfect fucking
Because
way to fight.
it's not a you could refer to it as a WWE style ring, like it's not a boxing ring, sir. Like, come on, dude. They took it from boxing to begin with. So it has nothing really to do with that. I mean, it's old school. Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, because, if you go back in the history of WWE, of professional wrestling, they would wrestle in that style of ring. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have too much of a problem with it. I prefer a cage for that exact reason. I also like the pit a lot that the Karate Combat uses and some of
Yeah.
these other organizations use now. So, I mean, I have the preference to that, but it's such an ingrained thing in the sport that I don't really have too much of a problem with it. But I do see your point about, yeah, you get knocked through the ropes, you have to reset, and it does add a little bit of a different element to it, in a negative way. But I think that on the other side of that, you could possibly make a case that it adds a little bit of a potentially positive element as well, because you do have the give of the ropes. So, you bounce back off of them a little bit. There's a little bit more that you can maybe be defensive with. If you're backed up onto the ropes, you can kind of get yourself farther back so that you're blocking shots a little bit better. If you have a hard cage there, yeah, you got a little bit of give off the cage, but you're pretty much bolt upright. So, you don't have any room to move your head backwards and over it. So I can see a case on either side of it. I prefer a cage, but it's not like something that I have too much of a negative opinion about.
No, I hear you. I know that Ryzen also does have the boxing style, the WWE ring, and I do think it is a nice change of pace because if I'm just when it comes to PFL, it's like I'm just watching a ripoff of the UFC because it's literally the same thing, but just not, and that's what I think is the big downfall for it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Well, actually,
yeah.
leading into the next point of them always being the follower and the little brother of the UFC, I think leads right into our next topic.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, we can go right into that if you'd like to. Yeah, the so we were talking, or I was talking at least, about the fact that the president of the United States wants UFC fights at the White House. There's a video on the Yama channel about that subject right now. So if you haven't seen that, go over and check that out after the stream. But so we've been speculating, what's that card going to look like? Is it even going to be a full card? Is it going to be a single fight at the White House? What's going to go on with this event that has been rumored? It's probably pretty much confirmed, I would think. We'll see what ends up happening over the course of the year. But either way, what's it going to be? Well, we saw that the PFL wanted to get in on the fun. So Don Davis, the big dog over at PFL, says, hey, this is such a great idea that Donald Trump wants UFC fights at the White House. How about some PFL fights as well?
Dude, this is hilarious that he already has the card. I didn't know he already had the card built. He's like, dude, we got it. This is it, Trump. You'll love this one. Look at these names. And it's like, none of these guys are doing this. Like, I'm pretty sure Nurmagomedov said he's not going to fight Paul Hughes again. So, like, I don't know, but that's just me.
Yeah, well, no, the funny thing was to me was that I think that he saw all of the memes that have been going around of like the potential cards. Cause, obviously once people heard that this was going to be a thing, the memes were flying. You got John Jones and Tom Aspinall, Connor and Chandler. I mean, there's a bunch of ones that make sense for something that big and the undercards to go with them. Dan Hooker, versus I forget who they matched him up with on the fantasy card or whatever, but like people of that caliber, like guys who are going to bring the fight and make it entertaining. So like you've had all of these fantasy cards coming around. So Don Davis saw that and was like, well, I'll put my fantasy card together. And he put all of their best fighters on this thing. So to be fair, if this actually was true, this is a banger card. Ngannou versus Nemkov, great fight potentially there. I mean, Ngannou is such a dominant champion that at least it'd probably be interesting, but you know how that would go. But then, yeah, Nurmagomedov and Hughes may or may not be a thing, but at least something there. And then Teixeira versus Carmouche. I mean, I would think that Teixeira is also one of those like dominant fighters at this point, and Carmouche has had such an up and down career and is so far into her career that would probably be a one-sided affair as well, but still a great fight. And then rounding out the main card, quote unquote, would be Fajeda and Goltsov, also a great fight. So I mean, like
Cyborg and Pacheco too. Come on now, you got to see that one.
Oh yeah, the prelims that they have are also pretty damn decent as well. Johnny Eblin and Corey Anderson, Cyborg and Pacheco and McKee and Pinedo. These are all like, as far as the PFL goes, the funnier part to me is like these are good fights, but these are the only good fights that they have available to them because there's just no one left at the PFL.
Yeah, it's like you gave us your best 6. Or what is it, 7? Excuse me, I can't count. And then they tagged the UFC like, evening UFC, you see this? We got a whole card built. And it's like, yeah, we see, don't worry.
Yeah, I think what I had said about this is the PFL UFC version of Mom Said You Have to Let Me Play Too.
Yeah, no, that is so funny. I can't believe, like, this is honestly, Donald Trump would see this and like he'd be like, what the ew, like what, who would do this? Like, why would you do this? Like, this is giving very begging, like, hey, you should let me on the White House too. He's got like a whole little White House USA July 4th, 2026. It's like, buddy, you are the president of the organization. I know you call the shots, but like, you just fucking rented out the White House for your organization, basically. And you know damn well Donald Trump don't even know what you are. I actually made this great point, and I'll let you go. Donald Trump, there was a quote, or not a quote, there was a question in the Discord. Do you think Donald Trump is a casual question mark? 100%. He comes for one pay-per-view every month, and he goes to the main card, and he doesn't even know who shakes his hand at the end of it. That's the craziest part. Yes, he is 100% a casual. He does not know anybody's name. He just shows up for fights. And he said, White House, I want one. And that's where we are now. So
yeah, no, I mean, I would counter by saying that I think that if you go on like the spectrum of like true casual to like hardcore, he's probably a little bit closer to hardcore than like a full on casual because he does know some of the fighters' names. He was tweeting about Hamzat at one point. So I mean that does take a little bit of a level of following the sport that maybe you wouldn't get out of someone who's strictly casual. But also he is running the United States of America, so I think you got to give him a little bit of leeway on that point.
That's my next point. It's like he should be a casual. If the United States president is a diehard UFC fan and he knows everybody's name and he knows the backstory and he does what we do, but in his free time kind of deal, who's running this shit? You got a lot of time on your hands if you know in the shit that I do. But I just don't believe it. I think Donald Trump is a grade A casual. I think he does not know many people. When they shake his hand, he's just like, nice, great performance, guy, and goes on about his day. Like you said, he's got buttons to press and shit to do in the White House.
Yeah, well, I mean, I made the point, and I'm not going to get full on political here, I promise, but I made the point on the video that I did that Trump and Dana White are very similar in the sense that they are both very rewarding of loyalty. And so I think that if he's a casual to the sport itself, then a lot of that comes from the loyalty that he has to Dana because they're very close personal friends. And that is intertwined with the business aspect of it, which has been very successful for both parties. So, whether or not he's like as hardcore a fan as an actual hardcore fan, probably not. But I think that via osmosis, because of the business intertwining between the two of them, he has gained an appreciation of the sport. And to be fair, again, I'll keep the politics out of it. I do think it's pretty awesome that you have a sitting president that is at least even acknowledging the sport of mixed martial arts. This is a sport that is still illegal in parts of the world. This is a sport that up until recently was illegal in certain states in the United States. I mean, we had a huge card to celebrate the legalization of the sport in New York State, at Madison Square Garden when it finally was legalized. That was a major deal for this sport. And that's not even going back that many years. So, to see it come from where it started in, the backyards of South Florida, shout out to Jorge Masvidal and the GOAT Kimbo Slice, to where it is now being acknowledged and potentially being presented at the White House. It's a crazy progression. And I do very much appreciate that.
Yeah, it is. It is a crazy thing that's happening that we genuinely could see fights happen on the White House lawn, but I am down for it. I think it is a very funky, modern thing for us to do. If we're gonna do anything that's modern, it's gonna have fights at the White House, and that's cool. So
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, I would say. Well, speaking of fights that are coming up, aside from the ones that we're going to be reviewing on the UFC card here, of course, we also have your favorite promotion who just put out some information about a tournament that they're doing. So I have a little promo video here that they've put out. Would you like me to play this?
yeah, you can play it.
It is 30 seconds, so I figured we can just check out what I have not seen this.
Mhm.
This is from, of course, the masterminds at Karate Combat who had said that we were going to have an event last March, did not get that, but now are coming back with a 2-night tournament. And this
Two-night
is,
event. Yep.
yeah, this is the promo for it, all surrounding our favorite big man, Robelis Despain. So let's see what Karate Combat has for us here.
Not blink. The DeLorean DMC token. Well, I'll get to DeLorean in a minute. The DMC pre-sale is live now. Robles Despain looking for a quick start. Marcus bringing out tumbled and he drops.
Oh, brother, they stuck so bad over there.
Just tallying up all of his
Yeah, that's really funny. Really, really funny, actually.
Okay, so that was really, I guess, just a
Oh, wait. Go to the end. Go skip to the end there. Sorry. There we go. The Giant returns to the pit to face 3 men in one night. Yes, so there is a heavyweight tournament. I thought it said 8 heavyweight tournament. How's that equal 3 fight? How does he get 3 fights? Does he have to win or does he automatically get 3? Like nobody knows what's going on here, honestly.
Oh, it's tournament style, so he would fight one in the finale, right?
Well, he's got to win.
Yeah, of course. Well, you see, yeah, they are assuming that he is going to win. That is true.
Yes. So that is just pretty funny that if he loses, who the fuck cares? But either way, I don't know. So this is an interesting thing. I don't know how they're gonna make 2 days for the events. Their events are already only like 4 hours long. So how they're gonna do 2 days, I don't know. But the tournament is an interesting type of thing. Is it only gonna be for the heavyweights, or they're gonna do each tournament each day, have heavyweights and women, or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I would think that it's probably going to just be men all in the same weight class and them doing it old school Pride style. That's why I like it. When you showed this to me, I was like, man, this is taking it back to an era of the sport that feels like it's long gone. The one-night tournament has not been around for quite some time. Even when they do tournaments now, like I believe PFL had a tournament at one point, and KSW, we talked a little bit about that because of our reviews of the cage. Make sure you all go and watch all of those cage reviews that we put all that time into. But yeah, the tournament style presentation is not prevalent anymore. So it is kind of cool to see a potential 8-man tournament going down in 1 or 2 nights, I guess, technically with this style here. So yeah, I like it. I'm all for it. I think that it's definitely cool. It's just it's Karate Combat, and we have had our criticisms of the product at Karate Combat.
Yeah, they're definitely not leading me with confidence because I'm in tune with a lot of things that go on at Karate Combat. I'm in their Discord, which seems to have people that are important in it, but they're never active. And then they only just post crypto scams and shit in there, which is pretty funny because we've already assumed that they are just crypto bros that just fuck around and have plenty of money to do nothing but watch random fights of, like Mank said, toilet cleaners, janitors, plumber, mechanics, shit like that.
Yeah, I was going to shout out Mank on that one because he's absolutely correct. That is
Yeah.
that is absolutely who they've been matching up Robellis Despaigne with so far, and the outcome has been as predictable as you could imagine. But yeah, I guess it's part of the issue when it comes to Robellis specifically is just finding him competition that's going to take the fight in Karate Combat. Because I mean, you've got these guys over there that are set up for failure essentially, but they still have to go out and do it. So, they still have to be game for that. They have to be game for getting knocked out. So, I don't know what Karate Combat is paying. I guess Robellis is saying that he's probably getting paid a little bit better than he was in the UFC at the level that he was at there. So he's probably doing fine. But how are you going to find huge guys that are just like, yeah, I'll go and get knocked out for $1,000?
I would like to believe that Robellis is what he was saying when he got paid. I'm getting more than I was in the UFC. That's probably accurate because he was, only on 3 fights in the UFC. He wasn't making big money because he sucks. Sure. But in Karate Combat, I mean, I'm sure he was projected to make a lot when they were doing 1 fight card a month. But now that he's only fighting, he started out the year, he was 3 for 3. Actually, he went December, January, February. We didn't have a March event. Didn't have an April event. He wasn't in May, I don't think. The big man returns for his 1 night through last man standing, and that's in July. So he probably is not making too much money because they can't find people to fucking fight him. They got 3 of them apparently, but who fucking knows? One of them might actually win if they just, I don't know. It's Karate Combat. There's probably no way that a guy that size is going to beat him because genuinely he is a specimen, and he is fast and he does know how to place punches. Even though they may look awkward, they land on big old fat people that suck. So he may continue to do what he's doing, but he'll never compete at the top level for mixed martial arts, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. No, Karate Combat is definitely the right home for him.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of finding him the competition that's going to keep him active there and keep the organization active as well. So, but speaking along those same lines, shout out to Lazy Bed again, saying that Sister Tan is fighting on this card as well. So, Alex Pereira's younger sister has been pretty active in Karate Combat and doing pretty decently, I would say. Like, I wouldn't say that she's necessarily like world caliber, but for Karate Combat, she's definitely better than okay. She's definitely higher than mid over there. So good, I guess, right? I mean, nothing wrong with that.
I think the real questions that I want answered is what days are gonna be for the prime time athletes. Is Robellis and Sisterton gonna compete on Saturday? Or are they going to want to showcase them on the first day because that's when the most people are going to show up at the first, like, it's like when it goes live, it's like, okay, the people who wanted to see it, that's when they're on kind of deal. They're not going to wait till the second day kind of deal. They want to see what Karate Combat's bringing, to start. So will the first night be bangers or will the second night be our Pakistani lightweight? Who knows? So.
Yeah, I guess we're just going to have to tune in and find out, but that all goes down on the 18th and 19th of this month. So not too long to wait, honestly. Keep your eyes out and maybe we'll see if we can hop on and take a look at it.
Yeah,
perhaps.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we will see.
Might be able to do like a 1-day rewatch of both days because they're probably not going to be too long.
Yeah. We'll see if we can work something out for that, perhaps. But so I mean, that's pretty much it as far as the news from outside of the UFC. Is there anything that we missed?
I did want to say specifically that the PFL did have a pay-per-view over the weekend, and for the so many people are in the Discord like, where do we watch this? Like, how do we find this? It's normally on ESPN or it's on Prime. There's a lot of different places the PFL plays on cable. So the fact that we find out that it's pay-per-view and then nobody, and I'm not saying that I am an advocate of this behavior, but does nobody decided to go stream it, that should probably tell you something about the quality of the fights. It's like nobody really cared to go pirate it, because if it's not free on TV and I can't easily just click it, I'm not wasting my time, is basically what I'm saying. But I think what's crazy about the pay-per-view is charging people for a PFL card that doesn't have Decheva on it. Criminal? Like, I don't know.
I mean, they gotta try to. This is going back to the point I was making about them trying to have homegrown talent in the PFL. So it's like they're probably a little too early to be pushing any of the quote unquote other stars that they have that are not Decheva and Ngannou, a couple of the bigger names. But they've got to do it. They've got to make the effort and go through the motions, because if not, then they don't have a system in place that like you can get people excited about for those stars in the future.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm trying to think. There's maybe one more thing about the PFL that I wanted to know. Oh, Jonathan Coachman. I don't know if you know that name.
I
He is
do.
the analyst for PFL.
Yeah.
Was in the WWE when I grew up watching. So shout out to him.
All right. Well, fun fact there. But as far as news goes, I guess that's pretty much the roundup from outside of the UFC. So you want to get right into this UFC card? How
We
about it?
can get right into this card. I'm really excited. We're going to start from the bottom, right? We're not.
Of course we
Yes,
are. Let's
yes.
do the
Thank you.
intro to this thing proper here, what
Yeah.
everybody really came to see. UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Teixeira, is taking place at the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee. That is coming up, of course, on this Saturday. Myself and Chase will be doing our individual watch-alongs, as always, to get this thing started off. This is a great card, by the way. We were doing a little bit of a preview last week about this card, and I was like, just reading off the fights like in order, and I was like, man, this really starts off with a bang and keeps going. Hopefully this will deliver in the way that we think that it's going to. But starting this thing off here, Fatima Klein versus Melissa Martinez. Klein is 7-1, 1-1 in the UFC. Win over Victoria Dudikova, lost to Jasmine Jasdavicius. Melissa Martinez is 8-1, 1-1 in the UFC as well. Her win is over Alice Ardelian. Her loss is to Elise Reed. And of course, Martinez is the sister of David Martinez, who just made his debut not too long ago and is a killer. Melissa, maybe not at that same level just yet, but still a formidable and tough opponent. What do you think of this fight?
I think this is a great fight, but I actually wanted to start with what I heard on a Twitter space, because Miss Fatima Klein did come in there and answer some of the fan questions earlier today, and I thought this was a great opportunity to hear just kind of her cadence and just where she's at in her mind. In this stage in her career, what does she want? Where does she want to be? I did find out she's very religious. That's where the Archangel name comes from. Shout out to her. It's a dope nickname. I also found out that she's predicting that she will get a first round TKO. So that is key to note. She believes that she wants that. They also did ask if they believe the minus 1200 tag is valid. And I think she gave some great insight. She didn't shoot down the possibility that she's as good as people are saying. Like, she was actually very confident in her abilities. Maybe the numbers are right. Like, I'm not going to say I'm going to go out here and smoke her, but if I believe in my abilities and people believe in me that much, then maybe the numbers are right. And I kind of like the way that she was getting at it. Like, she's young in her career. The way that she performed in her debut, she took note that was an impressive performance, and she knows that she's only been improving, and she's only been putting on more impressive performances. Her last finish against Dudikova, and I think she's just there's a real confidence level to her. And I don't know, so something about her. She's somebody that trains out of New York, always going to be in New York is what she says. I don't know if she's a Ray Longo kind of girl, but she might be, because she trains with Ramirez Brahimi.
Oh yeah, Ms. Brahima. Yeah, sure.
Yes. So I believe they might be Ray Longo people, but she's got next level confidence. I think we don't really see it too often out of the women, because they don't really get the spotlight in the interviews and people don't really ask them too many questions. That's why I thought this was a really good opportunity. But she did sound a little like Rose. Like, I will say she sounded like Rose in the way that she does have confidence in her ability. Now, Rose does have her moments, but I think Fatima sounded like the better parts of what Rose would sound. Like when she's going into a fight, like I've prepared my skills, I feel like I'm the better fighter. I've put in the time, things like that. I think Fatima she nails it.
That her and Rose is actually a pretty apt comparison based on what I've seen. I think that maybe Fatima's a little more grapple heavy at times than Rose generally is, but as far as the approach to the fights go, I could see Fatima Klein being a little bit like Rose in her earlier days. So I'm not mad at that at all. I think that makes perfect sense. And if she keeps fighting the way that she's been fighting, then she's got as promising a future, perhaps. I think that going up against Martinez is going to be interesting because I think the difference, and this actually also speaks to that point of how she is a little bit more like Rose. I think that Klein wants to probably keep this a little more rangy. She might not want to grind it out as much as Martinez will want to, because Martinez is one of those types of women who's going to go in there and like she'll get close range and she'll just try to really like grind the fight out. Like, it might be grind heavy as far as like the clinching and grappling goes, perhaps, but I think more of what it's going to be is get in close range, land the shots that you can, and try not to get hit on top of it. And if Klein can overcome that, then great. But I think that's going to be the big like deciding factor here. It might be another one of those tough for tough kind of situations.
Lazy Bed, thank you for correcting me. Yeah, with Aaron, that's actually a good shot. I do remember them saying that on the promos. Because Fatima was in a lot of the promos with her playing tennis and shit. I don't know why I remember that. But either way, I think Fatima Klein, she has a very grindy style. She's not somebody who's going to come out here and just start you on the feet. She's going to work for it, and she's going to get to the positions that she wants. In the space, she was also talking about that she's been doing grappling since age 10 or something like that. Her mom put her in there for self-defense, and then when she was old enough to do MMA, she just decided to do that. And so she has a grappling background, which I think is key to know. Melissa Martinez going to come out here and strike. I mean, we know she's a striker. Fatima Klein can strike, but having the element of having the grappling in your backpack, she's going to be able to get this fight to the ground, and we're going to see another TKO, kind of situation like Dudikova. I think very likely, if that's what she wants, and she knows that she's able to attain that with her skill set. I mean, I have no doubts. No doubts we're getting a finish.
Well, I think that's where like the rub comes in is I like if you're thinking that Klein's going to want to get grindy too, then I think this might be a really grindy fight, because I think the Martinez is definitely one of those chicks that has she's like dogged in the way that she approaches it. She's tough. So I think that there's going to be elements of it on both sides. And I would have thought that if, it's like if Klein comes in here, like having watched tape and is like, maybe keeping it ranged is going to be a better option as to getting my attacks off than maybe. But if they both want to go straight grind for grind, then yeah, I mean, I think that Klein probably skill for skill is going to be able to outwork her. That would just be my gut. And I guess that minus 1200 speaks to that.
Yeah, she really is a dog. I mean, anything about Fatima that I could say about her performances, I mean, I've already said it. Like, I'm big on her. She's really, really good. We don't have a lot of Americans that I would say are prospects that I'm like rooting for, because it's just a little niche right now. But Fatima, I genuinely do feel like she brings a real New York kind of attitude and spirit to the game, and she really does put on the performances of somebody that I would root for. So I can't really not, have my chips in her corner. A minus 1200 is hard, but I think she'll finish. I'm pretty, actually, there's one other thing I wanted to note. The reason I think also she's so confident in her grappling, yes, she's been doing it for a while, but she also said when she wins, if she wins, whatever, she will be calling out the MSG to perform in her hometown or whatever. And she wants Jillian Roberts and or Mackenzie Dern. So those are two grapplers that she feels that she could take on. I think this is an easy win for her. She might even get the submission. I think going for the finish is the safest way.
I wouldn't count Martinez out altogether in this fight, though. I mean, she has been less than full on put together, and a loss to Elise Reed certainly does not help bolster my case in any way. But I do think that she's got a toughness that is not going to be easy to overcome. Like, I don't think, because I mean, Dudikova, like I want to say that, yeah. I mean, and Klein just like steamrolled her. So I don't think that this is going to be one of those types of deals where we're going to see the massive favorite come in and just starch. At least not to begin with. I could see this going like I might even say that this like over 1.5 might be the safer bet on here. Just personally, because I think that Martinez is not going to be like as easy to finish as maybe like people are thinking that is going to be the case. But I guess we'll have to see about that part of it. But I just do think that the Martinez, I'm giving her a little bit more credit than I think other people are, because I think that she's tougher than people are giving her credit for.
Mm-hmm. I would love to see it. I would love to see this be a fight. If you want to go with my betting takes for the last 8 weeks, the first fight of the night is normally a banger, but it is a decision. That is what we've had for the last handful of cards. So maybe you're onto something, and maybe Martinez will show a little more grit than Dudakova. I mean, maybe is not what I should say. I mean, hopefully she shows more grit than Dudakova. Not very hard in this sport, but Fatima Klein has a skill set that I think is at this division, at the prospect level, kind of unmatched. I mean, 7-1, she's got the skills to do so much right now. Like, gee, at 24, she's got time. She's got, a record that she can pad with, a little bit of cans, get a good competition and skate by. And then we got a title shot on our way. And I think she's the type of person that I would love to see as champ. So
same. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that Klein has a very, very promising future for sure. And this will be another nice notch in that. But how many times recently have we seen these massive favorites and it does end up going their way, but it takes a lot more than expected? You know what I mean?
It is unfortunate because you're looking at a 1200 and the fight starts and then you're like, well, why hasn't it ended already?
Right.
And every little situation, it's like, oh my God, now they're on the mat. Like, what are you doing? How haven't you finished it already? So the fact that, with the last card, you had Jacoby Smith in the same situation and he didn't end up finishing it until the second round. But it's like we were starting to get worried. And that's unfortunately what's going to be on the side of all these dogs. Like when you have somebody who's a massive favorite, in our eyes, everything is a downfall for them. It's like, holy shit, you should not have let them get a takedown. You should not have let them hit you because you are a minus 1200. So it just looks a little worse. But in this case, and I've been confident, and I love having a little confidence in them because I think this is one of the fights that I'm just not going to have any pressure on. Like Fatima is going to do her thing. There's no way she loses, in my opinion. This won't be one of those WMMA matches where you got to play the dog because it's so unpredictable. Like, no, Fatima's not that. She is confident and she's very efficient. She's very what's the last word that I'm looking for? She's something, but she's everything is basically what I'm saying. Damn it.
Yeah, all of the accolades. No,
Yes.
And I agree. I mean, I really do. Having watched her even before the UFC, because I remember she came in on short notice for the Jazz Devicius fight, and I did a little bit of research on her, and just seeing her fight like pre-UFC, I was like, she's absolutely talented. And a loss at this point to Jazz Devicius is, I mean, like that's, Jasmine's on her way up too, so that ages very well. Yeah, I don't think that Klein's going to have much of a problem, but I think it's going to be more of a competition than just a straight starching.
Yeah, I can agree with you. I'm interested to see how this one goes. Decision,
Sure.
if you want my betting advice, but if you want my heart, I'm gonna say Fatima finishes.
Fair. I could see a finish over 1.5. That's what I'm going to go to. But yeah, and so we have to give predictions for all of these. So we're both going Klein on this one. This was an easy one, but remember that for all of these, you got to give a solid, firm prediction. All right.
100%.
Cool. Well, let's move on to the next one here. Mitch Ramirez versus Mike Davis. Ramirez is 8-2, 0 wins in the UFC. He lost to Carlos Prates on the Contender Series and lost to Thiago Moises in the UFC, both by KO TKO. His last 6 fights have all ended in knockout, win or loss, plus 2 more knockout wins to start his pro career. So he is a kill or be killed kind of fighter, Mitch Ramirez. Mike Davis is 11-3, 4-2 in the UFC. Notable wins over Vyacheslav Borshov, Natan Levy, and Mason Jones in his earlier stint before he came back. His losses, Mike Davis, losses to Gilbert Burns, Fares Zayam, and Sadiq Youssef on the Contender Series, actually. Davis versus Zayam was a fight of the year contender from February, if you recall, in Saudi Arabia, where the infamous paint fumes in the locker room incident happened. So keep that in mind, that Mike Davis might have lost that fight, but there were extenuating circumstances there. So all that being said, what are you thinking?
I think Mitch Ramirez is just a very common sounding name because when I see it, I'm like, I've seen this dude. Like that name, I've heard of that, right? But like when I look at his picture, I'm like, well, no fucking way. Like I've never seen this guy before. So maybe maybe something's going on with ESPN here. I don't know. Maybe the picture's wrong. But either way, Mike Davis in his last performance, I was heavily led to believe that he was going to win his last fight against Zaim, Fares Zaim. And he did not perform the way that he should have, from what I was led to believe. This is the first time that I was betting on him. I was taking advice from other people. I did lose that bet, and I was very upset with the performance that I saw from Mike Davis. However, I will agree, in any other circumstance, Mike Davis would have won that fight via leg snapping because Zaim was able to get out of the calf slicer and just maneuver his knee in a way that no other human probably can, which was very interesting. So Mike Davis, I don't know if you're on the shit list because you maybe could have won against anybody else, but you did also lose when I had money on you. So the fact that you're coming in at a minus 1100, this is a tough one because I don't want to bet on that number for sure. But I do think you should come out here and win. Now, from what I saw in your last performance, you're a little slow, grindy of a guy. You're not going to come out here and starch him in the first round, just like everybody else has. You might wrestle him, and maybe we'll see a sub if he wants to get a finish early. But I don't know. He might take this to decision, and that would be so crucial. That would be so sad. But
Well, I think that, and this could be a bunch of smoke being blown, perhaps, but I am putting stock in the paint fumes argument here, saying that Mike Davis, because we heard a bunch of guys were having problems there, that Mike Davis was one of them, and that was an off night. So either way, you could chalk it up to the paint fumes, chalk it up to the trip over to Saudi Arabia. There's a bunch of different reasons why, but I'm thinking that was an off night. That being said, you are correct though that Mike Davis is not the quickest starter. Now that lends itself to a little bit of favor for Ramirez because, as I said, kill or be killed. He could come out here and just start throwing bombs. Now I don't think that that's necessarily going to be the case, but it is potentially something that could happen. Davis does have the wrestling and the grappling, so if that does happen, I think that he's going to be well equipped to handle that, and he'll navigate that accordingly. But Ramirez has a puncher's chance, and that's about as good as I'll give him. But you got to keep in mind too that losing to Carlos Prates, obviously that's fine. That ages extremely well. His last fight aside, of course. Lost to Thiago Moises, a little bit less so, I would say, because Thiago Moises is also a bit of a slow starter. So all of those things said, if Davis is a slow starter and Ramirez is not necessarily like a world ender out the gate, then I think that Davis takes this a little bit farther into the fight. Submission probably is the likely outcome here. Got to ride with my hometown guy, Mike Davis. I was very not let down, but again, I'm thinking that there were extenuating circumstances in that last fight, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, saying he's coming out here and he's getting this win.
I just feel that I agree with Mank in the chat here. This line is absolutely rancid for somebody who's not a prospect. It's like, with a prospect, it's like, okay, you may not know what they're going to do. They're young. They might come out here and do whatever. Mike Davis is somebody who's been here for a while. Again, he's a slow, grindy type of guy. There's no reason that a minus 1100 needs to be on a 32-year-old coming off a loss. Like, I don't know. This is just not what I think it should be.
But it's really more on the Ramirez side, is what.
Yeah, I agree.
Here. That's what's dictating all of that. But that even being said, you guys, I think that what we have to come to, like the conclusion that we all have to arrive at, and it's an unfortunate one, but it is true, is that this betflation, we've talked about it on the show before, we'll talk about it many times going forward, because it's just, this is the norm now, where they have these guys who it's like, if there is a differential that they see as something that they can latch onto, like a fight like this is a perfect example of it, even because Ramirez, as I said, kill or be killed. So there's definitely a shot that he comes out here and lands a knockout shot. It's not impossible in the slightest, but they have the losses to Prates and to Moises. They have the fact that he's not been of the caliber of the UFC in the past. And you've got Mike Davis, who has some impressive wins aside from the last fight. So, I mean, I think that all of those things equal up to them saying, well, we can get away with this line. is what I think these Vegas odds makers think. And it'll probably tighten up and change a little bit because of the way the money is going to go closer to the fight. But starting off, you're just going to have to deal with these ridiculous lines.
Nope, I disagree. This is absolutely perfect for somebody like me who prides myself on being good at what I do. You have to be able to get the methods right. If you want to make money in this game now with a line like minus 1100 on Mike Davis, you got to go for that submission, and you better be happy with it, because when it hits, I'm telling you, listen here right now, when the submission hits on Mike Davis, you're going to have some money. But when you go money line, you ain't getting nothing. You ain't getting a dime. Vegas laughing at you, giving you 37 cents. I don't know. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're making the same point. You're not to just shoot down your boy like that.
Oh, I didn't mean to shoot.
I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding with you. No. But yeah. No, we are saying the same thing though, because it's like, yeah, if you're going money line, just my point in general, not just this fight, but in general, is that expect these crazy money lines, because a lot of people that are going into these bets, a lot of times, if they're not listening to last week's fights, if they're not as ensconced in this sport as we are, then they're just going money line a lot of the time. So it's like, oh, well, obviously huge favorite like that, that's an easy bet. So I'll just throw that down. They'll take the bait on those lines a lot of time. Now, it's not even bait often. I mean, a lot of times these guys are going to win, but the savvier bettor is going to go a little bit deeper. So a fight like this, I mean, I would think that over a round is probably possible. I would want to say that it might not be a first round finish here. So if you have that as an option, then that could be something that you go with. But either way, the point remains that you if you want to dig a little bit deeper, maybe go for number of takedowns. You know what I mean? Mike Davis getting 2 takedowns is certainly a possibility.
Will he get up though?
And there you go. I mean, these are the questions. Do you have a round where it's like first round he takes him down early, he rides him the entire round? That's you get your one off of that. If he gets the second one in the second round and the submission, that's an easy money right there, but it's not guaranteed. Of course, nothing is. So point is though, is that, yeah, you are going to see these inflated lines more and more. We literally have had 2 of them now in 2 fights on this card. So just get used to it. Unfortunately, the era of, these tighter lines, being the norm more often than not, I think is coming to a close only because of the way that the matchmaking is going.
Yeah, I agree. It's unfortunate, but hey, we are in the era of betflation. Like I said, I think you just got to be better than Vegas. That's the only way to win at this point. You just got to know what you're talking about. So Absolutely. Mike Davis submission is what I'm going with. Hard, firm. That's my pick.
Yeah. The only reason that I'd be slightly concerned about that is if he ends up getting potentially rocked at any point. It would be the only like thing in the back of my mind is that, obviously Ramirez does have a decent amount of power because he has so many knockouts from before. So I'd be a little bit concerned about that, but I think that it's a safe bet. I'm agreeing with the thought process here on Mike Davis getting the submission. I don't think he's going to I think that if he does get rocked, he's going to recognize it early enough, realize that he does not want to stand with that power, take it to the ground. I think Ramirez is not going to have an answer there. Gets the submission.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right. Well, we're 2 for 2, so we got to make.
I know. Yeah, we got to vary these up. I was trying to make a case for myself in my own mind to take this thing to decision, but I'm like, no, I'm talking it through. I think that the sub that makes more sense. So, all right. Well, we'll see if maybe this next one is one that we can have that
one fight. Agree on. That's where the likes will come into play, guys. Don't worry, we're getting there for you. Don't worry.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, trust that there will be plenty to go on either side for. But this next one up is Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Walter Walker. And Nzechukwu is 14-5, 3-2 in his last 5, back-to-back knockout wins since moving to heavyweight. One over Chris Barnett, one over Lucas Drezky. Prior to that, a 2-fight losing skid at his former home at light heavyweight. One of those was to Oven St. Preux and the other to Dustin Jacoby. Walter Walker is 13-1. He is 2-1 in the UFC. Wins over Junior Tafa and Dontel Mays. His loss was to Lucas Drezky. Both of Walker's finishes were, both of his wins in the UFC were by finish, and both of them were by heel hook.
Yeah. What's actually nuts is I think this is one of the more confident picks that I have for this week. We've been saying for a while, Kennedy is a dark horse at the heavyweight division. The record is going to sway a lot of people. Like, why would I bet with somebody who's got 5 losses? But he's at a new weight. He feels more comfortable, it looks like. At least for somebody who only sees him at heavyweight, it looks like somebody who's comfortable at heavyweight. It doesn't look like he's struggling or he's too small. He looks right at home. And I've said this, he kind of came out with the John Jones heavyweight build. And I think he does use his skills, and in the stand-up, that is, very, very similar. He mixes in elbows, he gets the clinch, he does elbows, he does knees. He's very good with them. Now, in the past, I have stated publicly that Walter Walker is one of the greatest heavyweight submission artists to date. I mean, he does have 2 submission wins in the UFC. Not many heavyweights can say that, especially not by the same submission. So will Walter Walker charge across the cage like a big old goofball, take him down, and wrestle fuck him to decision, or potentially get a submission? I don't think so. I think Kennedy works him over on the feet very, very early. And that's just what I think. But
Well,
I'll let you hear. I'll let you
yeah,
go.
sure. No, I mean, you and Walter Walker make a good case for him being one of the better submission guys at heavyweight. That's why I cannot wait for Buchetta to come over and show these guys what's up as far as grappling goes. But in the meantime, yeah, I mean, Walker is going to have the size advantage because Nchezuku has put on the size since he moved up to heavyweight, but he still has that, like you said, he got the John Jones build, but that also comes with a little bit of lankiness. Granted, for ranged attacks, that's definitely a good thing. But as far as like close range, now Kennedy is really good at close range, even with him being a smaller guy. But I think that Walker having a little bit of a bigger frame in general might be able to negate some of that, which I think is going to be a big deciding factor here. Now, I don't think I'm also in the same camp. I don't think that Walker's going to be able to just take him to the ground and grab his heel, and then that's going to be the end of it. That does not strike me as something that Kennedy is going to allow to happen. But what I could see happening is Walker making this a lot more of a grind fest. You know, when Kennedy wants to get into those close range, you know, land those close elbows, get him up against the cage, Walker reversing that, you know, essentially doing the wall install game with him a little bit. I think this could be a lot more of a grindy fight than what we would like to see out of this fight, which is unfortunate because like both of these guys have finishing ability. So it would not be the greatest if that is what ends up happening. But that all being said, I mean, I think that I'm going to go with Walter Walker on this one. And I know it's crazy. I'm definitely not happy about this because like I like Kennedy and Nchezuku and I like him a lot at heavyweight, but I just think that the weight is going to be the bigger issue here. And I think that Walker's not going to let Kennedy have the range that he's going to need.
I'm glad you brought up the weight because I think that's what's going to be key, because Walter Walker coming, you know, he's somebody who's you know, on the weight here, it has him as 245, which is the minimum limit for heavyweight. So I'm thinking that in his mind he should be thinking, I got to come in heavy as fuck. If I'm going to wrestle Kennedy, I'm going to be heavy as shit and lay on him. I'm going to be the maximum. I'm going to put on as many pounds as I can, because both of these guys haven't fought in a decent amount of time. So Kennedy, which is going on probably a year that he hasn't fought, he might be bulked up also. Like, you know, that was his first kind of go around at heavyweight. He took those 2 fights and then a long time off. Maybe he's settling into his body. He's eating a little more. I think what's going to be key is who comes in closer to the heavyweight limit. That is who I think is going to win this fight. That's
you don't think that the cardio is going to be an issue if that's the case?
If it's Walter Walker who comes in heavier, I think the cardio will be an issue. If Kennedy comes in heavier, I think I have faith that he took enough time to develop into it. He didn't just fucking eat cheeseburgers and fucking get fat, you know? So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, my heart wants to go with Kennedy and Nchezuku on this for sure. I definitely do because I like him more, and I think that his move to heavyweight is almost a bit of a prototype for what like light heavyweights can achieve at heavyweight if they do it correctly. I think he's done everything right as far as his move up goes. I think that now that he has gotten a couple of decent wins at heavyweight, competition is going to start being a little bit harder. This wouldn't say that this is like that big of a step up just yet, but Walker being a more natural heavyweight, I think might be the deciding factor, aside from just having extra weight if he does come in heavier.
You gotta have more faith than that. Like, if you were somebody who wants light heavyweights to be able to step up and go to heavyweight, which if you look across the cage from Kennedy, you have Walter Walker, whose brother is somebody that we've been preaching to go to heavyweight. Just do it, just get it out the way, and maybe you'll have some better success because light heavyweight is just not for you. Kennedy realized that early and he decided to go up. But you should have more faith that it's not just going to be, well, the true heavyweight has to win. Like that's
No, I mean, but it's not just that though. I think that Walker, like, he's not terrible on the feet to begin with. I mean, he's not like necessarily like a power puncher that's going to be knocking heads off, but he can hold his own standing.
We
So it's
haven't seen it though. The real test would have been Junior Tafa, but he just blitzed him and got the heel hook right away. Junior Tafa, ex-Glory champion, we'll talk about him in a little bit, but this is somebody who was going to give him the test in the stand-up, and I don't think we've seen it. You even said he lost to Lucas Dretsky. Brother, if you lose
yeah.
to that guy, I mean, that's pretty fucking bad. The only times that he hasn't lost, he got a heel hook on Dontel Mays, who fucking sucks. And then he got a fluky-ish heel hook against Junior Tafa. Or Justin Tafa, whichever one it was. I think it's Junior.
I'm trying to disagree on all of these points, but I really can't on all of that. I don't know,
you gotta
man.
stay with Walter.
I'm staying with Walter on this.
What sucks though is, like, as I sit here and I talk about it, I'm like, oh man, the potential that Walter does just blitz him and take him down, very likely. Like, I would hate if that's the reality. So I low-key am on the fence here. But at the beginning of the week, Kennedy has been a lock that I've been super heavy on, and I do pride myself on being unbiased. Walter Walker is somebody, again, great heavyweight submission artist, but that doesn't take away from what I've seen from Kennedy. And I think the skill set from Kennedy is going to be what wins. That's my initial thought. And when I go against my initial thoughts, that's when I screw up. So I'm going to stick to my guns here. Kennedy is going to win this fight by finish.
I also, I've been denying my initial thoughts because I've been so wrong lately. And I think that that's a little bit of where this is coming from. So I'm sticking with my anti-gut on this because like I said, my head was telling me Kennedy early. So I'm sticking with the opposite here. I'm going Walter Walker by decision.
I don't dislike that one. I don't dislike that one.
All right. Well, we will
make
see.
Sure, if you're in the chat right now, you like whoever's opinion you like.
Exactly. Who has made the better case on that one? Because that's a pretty big divergence there, I would say. And we're both kind of seeing the other side's points too. So
it's a tough one. I maybe won't bet on it now because I'm like, fuck, maybe he did have some good points, but.
And over 1.5 people, I'm telling you, it's such a you don't always get the best lines for it, but as far as safety goes, often we've been seeing a lot of decisions lately too. I mean,
you speak of the lines again, and I think Kennedy is going to be one of those dudes. Melly Costa is somebody that I could say is like this as well. Vegas dangles these lines in front of you. They'll put a minus 1100 tag on fucking Mike Davis because they know people get on the app and they're like, holy shit, he's a lock, but they don't know that Mike Davis is not a fucking killer. Kennedy is somebody who potentially could be a fucking killer at heavyweight. This is somebody with a minus 210 tag. You should feel grateful because this is somebody that could literally be Tom's next opponent in 2 fights. So be grateful, minus 210, parlay it with something that I'm going to give you a little later, and be very, very grateful because I actually think that's a great point. Most of the casuals that are looking to make a quick bet, they will put people like Mike Davis in the slip, not knowing how inconsistent, how non-threatening he can be early, and any of these other reasons why I gave you. But Kennedy, I just don't think there's a reason I could tell you not to take a minus 210. Like that genuinely feels free at this point. So
true. Yes. I mean, so I will stick with my Walter Walker pick, but don't look at my verdict.
Yeah.
All right. Well, but so I'm good with that though.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Moving on here. Lauren Murphy versus Eduarda Mora. Murphy is 16-6, 3-2 in her last 5, wins over Misha Tate, Joanne Wood, and Lilia Shakarova, whoever that might be. Losses to Valentina Shevchenko and Jessica Andrade. We definitely know those names. Has not competed in over 2 years and is 41 years old. Mora is 11-1, 2-1 in the UFC, plus 1 win on the Contender Series. Before that, her wins are over Montserrat Conejo Ruiz, or Montserrat Reardon, as you might know her, and Veronica Hardy. Split decision loss to Denise Gomes.
I think this one is as clear cut as it can be. I have always joked about when it comes to women's MMA, Lauren Murphy might be one of the worst fighters that I've ever like. I'm genuinely serious, well, I'll let you go. But the fact that they paired her up with somebody who's a prospect, of course, and somebody who has 9 finishes out of their 11 wins, I think it is so easy. This is a 41-year-old fighter. And granted, she's only been finished like 1 time or something like that. Lauren Murphy, I think, something like that. But Moira is going to murder her, and that's just my opinion.
Okay, well, 2 things. One, did you not hear that the losses were to Valentina Shevchenko and Jessica Andrade in her last 5? That's the first point.
That's a great point. But I have always said when I see the highlights of Valentina, like, they're doing the promo packages and they're showing who everybody should be, and then Lauren Murphy's on there, I'm like, how the fuck did she get here? And why did they do that to her? They know she had no fucking chance. Like, they put her up against Shevchenko, like, dude, she was in her fucking heyday right there, and put the ass whooping on Lauren Murphy. They knew what they were doing. That should be in a minus 1100. But
all right, well,
continue. Sorry.
Fair. So okay, fine. If that's not the point that sways you, how about this point? Eduardo Mora fucking sucks too. She is not good. Eduardo Mora is not, dude. I remember her debut thinking that, like, what the hell is she doing in there? And then the win over Veronica Hardy does not speak at all to anything. I mean, like, Veronica Hardy is not great either. She's probably, I mean, I think that Veronica Hardy's probably on the way out of the organization, I would think, at some point soon. Split decision loss to Denise Gomes. That also kind of, I mean, Gomes is, again, just like okay-ish, maybe a little bit better than okay, but a split decision loss to her.
It was a robbery, if I remember correctly.
I mean, either fucking way, if it was close enough that it was even a question. I mean, she's not out here doing anything. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm a fan of Lauren Murphy just because she's been around for so long. I would like to see her get a win, come back and just school some young up and comer. Be the, they're trying to make her a gatekeeper, like, just by nature of her being older and the status that she has in the sport at this point. I would like to see her be able to close that gate. But do I think that that's going to happen? Probably not. Mora probably is going to win this fight, but I would not expect it to be any kind of mopping over here. I think it's going to be a sloppy grapple fest that's really not going to be all that impressive. And like, you're going to, will Mora get it? Sure. But does this change my opinion? No. I do not see anything in Eduardo Mora that is impressive.
I think if you have not seen the impressiveness out of Moira, fair. I do not believe that you should take anything away from the matchup with Lauren Murphy after this. Because she could have the greatest performance ever, but you should not. If you didn't see it before Lauren Murphy, do not use Lauren Murphy as your example. If she has the shittest performance ever against Lauren Murphy, okay, that you need to talk about. But if she performs godlike and she finishes Lauren Murphy in the first round, one, I would not be surprised, because this is somebody you need to finish in the first round. Second, I don't even know if I had a second point, but dude, Lauren Murphy's fucking old and 1 foot and out the door, like a lazy bed. She's about to retire.
I was just gonna bring that up. Lazy bed coming in with the background info here, saying that this is confirmed to be Murphy's retirement fight, and I didn't bring up that layoff as well, but the fact that she has been out of
the layoff.
Oh, did I? Okay, sorry. But the fact that is even the case, this is a long time out of the cage, retirement fight. One last, shining spotlight on you, perhaps just to, wave goodbye to the crowd kind of thing. I hate that it's Moira. I really do. I don't like that it's her getting this, because this really feels like a little bit of a gifted win that someone who maybe, if this was Fatima Klein, I'd be like, bro, this is going to be a massacre. Moira, this is just going to be a shitty win.
I think what you just got to know, these are matchups that you have to realize these are the people that the UFC has stock in. They want Moira to be good because
Why?
putting Lauren Murphy on the resume means something. And I can't tell you why, but when Eduardo Moira is 13-1 or 13-2, whatever it is, and people look at her resume and they'll be like, wow, she beat Veronica Hardy and Lauren Murphy. Like, those are aging pretty well. Like, this is somebody that boosts the legacy. This isn't really a matchup where it's going to be competitive, where you can see something out of Moira that you didn't see before. Yeah, she might come in here and mop her. I really hope so. Maybe it's a decision, but I think what's just key to note is the UFC wants the win for Moira right here. They want an impressive win for her. They gave her in my opinion, the worst woman on the roster at age 41. Yes, she should mop her, and the UFC wants that to happen. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm agreeing with it. Again, I think that it goes back to my point being that I wish that they were putting stock into a fighter that I thought had a better career trajectory.
I can understand that.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a nice, easy notch in the belt for Moira. Comes in, like you said, you might get a highlight out of it. That'd be great for her and all that. Then you put her up against somebody who's actually, in a little bit more of a neck and neck situation. Someone's, closer in age. Someone also is hungry. Someone who wants the belt. And this is going to be a false impression going forward for people, I think.
That's fine, because then well, it's actually not fine, because going forward, if she does mop Lauren Murphy, then she's going to be the minus 1200 in the next matchup when it's somebody that you don't even know, Moira, that is. But this matchup here, I'm just not impressed with the matchmaking, because it is not somebody who's competitive to Moira. But it is also just getting Lauren just the fuck up out of here. Like, let's just get it over with.
You had to give her somebody for the retirement fight, so it had to be
right.
Yeah, I get that. I'm with that. But I guess then if there is a silver lining, then people remember this conversation, because if Eduardo Moira, when she gets this win, if she does come into her next fight as a massive favorite, keep close eye on who she's fighting. And if there's even a question in your mind that it's going to be competitive, then you might have some money on the line there.
True. I definitely agree, but I would never agree that Lauren Murphy is going to win this matchup. So I am going a hard, firm selection on Eduardo Moira.
I got to agree there. I mean, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. I think that I'd probably, as a Lauren Murphy fan, way more than you apparently. I did not realize that you did not like her that much. I think that also I have a little bit more of a history with Murphy.
Yes,
having been
I've never seen her fight live, so that's this would be the one performance that I would see from her live. So.
Sure, yeah.
Same with what's that one girl? I forget. She had the gray strand of hair. She looked like Elaine from Seinfeld.
Yes. I know.
Same deal with that.
Yeah,
it's the first time I see her, and then she retires. So it's like a whatever.
Sure. But yeah, as far as Murphy goes, I mean, I remember her from The Ultimate Fighter and stuff like that too. So, she's been around for a while. She's a veteran of the sport. Like I have a affection for her in that regard. And so, that being said, I would say that if you have any inkling at all, or the same affection that I have, then maybe, you put a straight bet on her, just at, a very, very small money straight bet. But yeah, definitely keep her out of your parlays. Moira's probably going to take this pretty easily.
100%.
All right, moving on to the next one here. Jake Matthews versus Chidi Njokuani. This is Jake Matthews, 21-7, 3-2 in his last 5. His wins are over Darius Flowers, Phil Rowe, who just had a great performance recently, and Francisco Prado. Losses to Matt Semmelsberger and Michael Morales. Chidi Njokuani is 25-10, 3-2 in his last 5 as well. Wins over Reese McKee, Jared Gooden, and Ezeliu Zaleski dos Santos. Losses to Albert Duraev and Mikhail Olashechuk. He is on a 3-fight win streak, or it was a 3-fight win streak after a 3-fight losing streak after a 4-fight win streak. So this Chidi Njokuani is candy caning in extended periods, basically.
Yeah, I would like to know, Chidi has a black and white photo, which is really funny.
I knew you were going to say something, and that is amazing. This dude is 25-10, and they have a black and white picture of this guy. ESPN does not care about MMA, people.
Yeah, so really, really funny. I also would like to know, did Chidi beat RoboCop? Yes, he did. That was when the big cut opened up. I believe that was Chidi that did that.
RoboCop won that fight, though.
Oh, he did win that fight.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that was that fight, but that was RoboCop.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep.
Fair. Okay. I still want to ride with Chidi on this one. This is another one where in my mind it is set. Like at the beginning of the week, I said Kennedy, Chidi, no doubt in my mind, these guys are going to win. They're going to put the pace on them. They're going to put the clinch, the knees, the elbows. They're going to get nasty. Chidi is the definition of that. Chidi, bang, bang. This dude really does put on a performance that makes you think that. And then when I look at this performance, I literally say, okay, random Aussie Jake Matthews versus Chidi, bang, bang. No way I'm taking anybody other than the dude that I've seen maul people. So I don't know. I've seen Jake Matthews lose to Michael Morales, apparently. Chidi, I haven't seen him lose yet. So I'm going to go with Chidi on this one and just ride with my high hopes that the candy cane is no more into effect.
Yeah, I mean, Chidi is a tough dude, most definitely. The only losses recently are the Duraev and Olashechuk that I mentioned. I believe that both of those were submissions. I want to say, yeah, or well, a split decision. Okay, so I went a knockout by Olashechuk. That's
yeah,
not
that's
great.
nuts.
But so okay, if that's not the case, then maybe I have to backtrack just a little bit there. But I mean, Matthews is one of those dudes that just is in the pool, the talent pool, but it's like not really one that makes a great impression. These wins, maybe Phil Rowe, I guess a little bit. That there's something there perhaps, but a loss to Matt Semmelsberger is like, that's a bad one. Michael Morales, of course, I mean, he's surging, but Semmelsberger, that's not great. I just think that Chidi is going to be tougher, and he's a dude that 25-10. Like you can see the scars that this dude carries. Like he is like out there. He lives this fight shit. His brother is also a fighter who I saw fight live in Gamebred bare knuckle MMA. So tough genes in the family. I think that Chidi is just going to be able to take whatever Matthews is given. I think the issue here.
Yeah, I just don't know what I would see from Matthews that would make me believe that he's going to beat Chidi, because Chidi is somebody that I remember, like, holy shit, the performance that I've seen from him is something that I don't believe many fighters could walk away from. And that's what's key here is Chidi, he has the ability to make it nasty, man, to make the performance gritty. And it's not even like a grindy wrestle type of, it is grindy, but it's on the feet and it's with the clinch. And he's going to eat you up. So Jake Matthews, you better been working the belly, and you better been blocking up top on the head, because Chidi's going to rip some elbows, and he might bust him open. I think some blood will happen here.
I could see that. Yeah, I definitely could. I mean, Chidi is another one of those dudes that, like, when he's in close range, he has a really solid game plan for that. And that, I think, is something that we're like seeing evolve more now. It's like the metas in the sport. Like I always think back to like how like it's not even maybe 10 years where like you didn't see it nearly as many elbows as you see now. Now you see elbows all the time. I love it. I love elbow strikes. You see that you get the cuts, you get the damage. You want to see more elbows. You're seeing that now. I think that the next evolution, we've been seeing it from guys like Gustafsson, who, is going out there in close range, getting beautiful elbows at close range. Now, I'm not just saying that elbows is the decider here, but the close range attack plan, I think, is improving time over time in the sport now. And I think Chidi is another dude who has a solid game plan for that. If I recall, I believe that the Reese McKee fight was one that showed just that. Now, it didn't end up finishing the fight in that instance, but he certainly showed that, like, if you take it into close range with him, he's got an attack strategy that will work in his favor. So I just don't see the openings that Matthew's going to have against the skill set of Njokuani.
I agree. I think we're on the same page here. This one, it sucks that we're kind of locked in right now, but
I mean, we got to be. I threw the Walter Walker out there. What do you want from me, people? You're going to have to be the one to go against your gut next.
Yeah.
But I think it's got to be for this one. Yeah, I'm pretty solid with Chidi on this. Matthews pulling the upset would not be like the craziest upset. If it did happen, I'd be like, yeah, I mean, I guess that maybe there's more to it than we were giving him credit for. But at this stage of what we're talking about, I think we're both making solid points here.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, that down then, taking the prelims and rounding them out, you've got Max Griffin versus Chris Curtis. Griffin is 20-11, 2-3 in his last 5. His wins are over Jeremiah Wells and Tim Means. His losses are to Neil Magny, Michael Morales, and Michael Chiesa, and he looked terrible in that Michael Chiesa fight, if you recall. Chris Curtis is 31-12. That record is insane to me for Chris Curtis, but that is what it is. 31-12. He is 1-3-1 in his last 5. win over Marc-Andre Barrio. His losses are to Kelvin Gastelum, Brendan Allen, and Roman Kopylov. And the no contest in there was against Nasruddin Imavov.
Does the no contest not count as the extra stat on the end? I thought it did, but I could be wrong.
That's it. He's 1-3-1.
Well, he's 31-12 right there.
Oh yeah, how about that? Yeah, good point. They don't have that. That's interesting. I didn't even notice that when I was doing the all these notes here. But you're right. They have 31-12 with a 0 at the end. But he certainly has a no contest with Nasruddin Imavov. So
interesting,
right there, no contest.
I actually think I'll start this one by saying that I think you will be surprised by my opinion on this.
All right, well, lay it on me.
Because as most people should know, Chris Curtis is a native of Cincinnati, Ohio. So I do have very big and high regards for this man. I know he did move away and he represents Las Vegas now, but hey, it's whatever. Cincinnati is where he was born. Wherever you're from, Chris Curtis, I'd love to see some pictures, love to see some areas. I'm obviously close. I'll go find it. Either way, I would just like to say that I would not be betting on this fight particularly because Chris Curtis has the style of a split decision fighter. He is somebody that when he gets in the exchanges, he's a trade kind of fighter. He's a you go, I go. I'll give you a combo, I'll take a combo. And then he also rolls a lot of his punches, and it is great because he doesn't wear a lot of damage most of the time, but these are strikes that the judging are probably going against him. He's often talked about this too, that he feels the judging is against him because they don't know that he's rolling off the punches. They don't land clean. And that is something that you can take into account. Sure, if you do take losses and you want to credit that to it. I don't know. I would not, because you should just be a better fighter, in my opinion. But Chris Curtis, again, split decision kind of guy. Max Griffin is not the guy that I think would beat Chris Curtis, but I could totally see Chris Curtis coming out here and playing a point type of game with him until the bell. And then you're going to get stupid judging because Chris Curtis maybe landed the same amount of strikes as this dude. I would also think it's key to note that as much as I love Chris Curtis, I'm watching somebody at the end of his career. This is not a prospect versus a vet where it's like, okay, he's obviously going to mop him to get his name in the picture. Chris Curtis is way past those times. This is the vet versus vet. This is the Daniel Rodriguez and the Ponzinibbio type of thing. Like, this is the two old sluggers. And I think it's just hard for me to say that Chris Curtis is going to win this one convincingly because he just doesn't do that. That's just not what I've seen him do unless he knocks out Brendan Allen. That's literally about it. So
yeah, well, to address a couple of points, I guess one is that Chris Curtis is a crybaby. He is an emotional guy. So when you say that he's, arguing and, making these justifications for why the judges are against him, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, coming from Chris Curtis, I certainly believe that he makes those kinds of whiny arguments when he doesn't win fights. That being said, as I had mentioned, Max Griffin looked so bad against Michael Chiesa, and all it took from Chiesa was a little bit of grindy wrestling. Now, I don't think that Curtis is going to do that. He's definitely a hand thrower. He's not going to be trying to wrestle him a whole bunch. Lazy Bed coming in with a good point as well, saying that this is Curtis back down at 170. I think that plays a little bit of a factor as well. I think if he's smaller, he's going to be a little bit faster. And Griffin, it's the cardio that's the issue. That's cardio has been going for the 39-year-old Max Griffin here.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, there you go.
What I was going to say is I don't really care about the drop down to 170. He's an old man. He's probably going to have a worse cut now. I mean, going up in weight when you get older, okay, that's fine. Like, that makes sense. You're going to carry on more weight as an adult. You're going to tack on more mass. But when you were 37 years old and you've been fighting at 185 for the past handful of years, I don't think you just go down to 170 and it's just all just cool.
Well, no, but my point though is that if Griffin is down at 170, like on the reg, and Curtis is coming back to 170, I think that the cardio is going to be the big issue in this fight. And like Curtis being, taking the weight off is going to give him better cardio. Griffin, the gas tank is just a problem to be wrestled with, to be grappled with for him in his own mind at this point. I think that's going to be the bigger factor. I think that if if this ends up going into later rounds, then, Griffin ends up gassing, even if it just stays on the feet, even if Curtis doesn't even try for any takedowns or anything like that. I think that you're going to see Griffin probably start pretty strong. If he gets a knockout early, then so be it. That's fine. But if this goes anywhere past a round and a half, I think that Chris Curtis is going to be laying on more effective shots than Griffin's going to be able to muster.
I honestly am going to agree after I've talked it out. I mean, I just don't genuinely think Max Griffin is the opponent to put up a great performance. I know Chris Curtis does have that split decision type of style, but he does tack on power, and he's knocked out people at 85. So if he's able to master this cut down to 70, and he's still that stocky fire hydrant frame that we expect out of him, and as long as Max Griffin doesn't have the takedown ability of Kopylov, because apparently, Chris Curtis supposedly has great grappling, has great wrestling, and he's good at a lot of different things, but Kopylov took him down with ease. But that is also a Kopylov who got down fluffy. So I don't know if Kopylov's just advanced more than the average wrestler as of right now. But if Max Griffin shoots and Chris Curtis gets taken down, I'm going to be very upset, because then we're just literally going to get a split decision, because Chris Curtis will win on the feet and then he'll get taken down 4 times, and held down. So I don't know. Actually, this one's tough.
Really. Yeah, I'd say they could go a couple of different ways, I guess, is really what it comes down to there. But yeah, Chris Curtis having the back pocket wrestling that's always talked about, that he doesn't need to use, but he's got it in the back pocket. I've made my opinion about that pretty clear over the years at this point. I put very little stock into that as an assessment, at least going into fights, unless I see it actually used in the fight, which could happen. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, but I don't factor it in, because, again, if a tree falls in the forest kind of thing. But all of that being said, what I have seen is I've seen gas tank problems out of Griffin. And that's really what I'm basing my opinion on here more than anything else. I know that Chris Curtis is also at an advanced age, but I think that the taking the weight off only helps his cardio. I don't remember seeing Curtis gas tremendously in any of his fights. So that all being said, I mean, really, like, Max Griffin is tough, and he's a strong power puncher as well. So I'm not saying that he couldn't get it done early. Like I said, if he gets a knockout early, so be it. I'll take that, and power to him for that. But if the fight goes the way that I'm thinking it's going to play out, he gasses a little bit earlier than he otherwise might have if he was younger, Curtis takes over after that.
Yeah, I actually think I'm leaning towards a late finish by Chris Curtis. Them having this at the featured prelim, no way you're going to have a decision. I just don't feel it right now. I think Chris Curtis should be able to get a finish. He has 17 knockouts. That's what he does. He strikes, and he does pack a punch sometimes. Max Griffin has been finished once on the feet, but he's 39 years old. I would not be surprised if this is the second time he gets knocked out in his career. I mean, Chris Curtis does have that ability. 37 is not young, but he is he does have a youthful body. Like, he is athletic, and he, what they say, guys, black don't crack. And I hate to be that guy, but he is chiseled for a 37-year-old man, and he'll go out there and do his Philly show. And he's good. He's as good as they come when it comes to striking in welterweight now, I guess. But actually, I won't go that far. At 85, the striking was as good as they come. At 70, now we're getting a little interesting, but the run is not going to last too long, I don't think, because he's not going to go face some of the elite strikers of 70. He's just not going to get there, I don't think. Kevin Holland would be like the highest that he reaches in this run that he's about to have.
Yeah, I mean, he's not elite caliber, in my opinion. I mean, like, sorry to say, I think that he's a dude who is high middle. We talk about the echelons and the different categories and stuff. Like, he's a high middle guy, and that's where he can be most effective. Griffin, I would say, is a middle guy. And
not even
that well, and so there you go. If that's even in question at all to you, then the answer becomes very clear there.
Yeah. And I agree.
And I like Max Griffin. I want to make this also very clear, because Max Griffin is a dude who is about his business. I'm often on LinkedIn for various reasons, and I see him on LinkedIn, working his business dealings and promoting himself, promoting his brand. So I got a lot of respect for the guy. But, as far as this fight game goes, in the cage kind of thing, we've been seeing a progression in the wrong direction, and we have not seen that out of Curtis yet.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, this one, again, I still don't know if I'm going to bet on this one, because it is very, It's very worrisome. That's all I'm saying.
I would probably wait and see if that line closes up a little bit because at a minus 330 favorite, Chris Curtis is, I'd probably want that to be closer to maybe a 200 if I was even going to potentially put anything on it. But there might be something there if you do decide a little bit later, closer to the fight. Go for the live odds.
Yeah, I feel you. I hear you.
All right. Well, moving on to the main card here. Tafa, this is Junior Tafa, excuse me, Junior Tafa. Junior Tafa versus Tuco Tokos. Tafa is 6-3, 2-3 in his last 5 wins over Parker Porter and Sean Sharif, who was on short notice in that fight, if you recall. His losses are to Muhammad Usman, Marcos Rogerio de Lima, and Walter Walker. Tokos is 10-5, 0-2 in the UFC. His losses are to Umar Sy and Navajo Sterling. Tuco Tokos, this dude did not come in through the Contender Series or Tough. So my question, Chase, is why is he here and why is he still here?
I don't know why he's here if he didn't go through any of the legacy, events or whatever you want to say. Somebody maybe thought he was the guy and he just didn't, same thing with Josh Van. Like he didn't go through any of the road to the UFC, Tough. He didn't do any of that. Somebody just knew. And it happened to pan out with somebody like him. But Tukos is probably the other end of that equation. It's like we have guys that we pull up because we think they're the guy, and then they show up and they're just not actually the guy. And I think this is unfortunately going to prove that even more because I think this is a performance that is supposed to get Junior Tafa in the win column. He is, like I said earlier, former Glory kickboxing champion. Somehow, Junior Tafa. And he should go out here and obliterate Tuco on the feet. And I think that's really what they're hoping for because Tuco Tukos is just not good. So, I mean, it should just be an easy ass whooping, to be honest.
Yeah, and the other point of this is that Tafa is fighting at the weight in this that he wants to fight at. This is a light heavyweight fight. Tafa had been going up and taking heavyweight fights because that was what was offered to him. I think a couple of those were fill-in short notice types of deals.
Or his brother was one of them.
Right. I mean, that was the other thing too, of course, doing the swapperoo with
that
his
actually
brother there.
That almost brought a tear to my eye when I first started watching the sport, and I was like, bro, see, this is what the fight game is about. When your brother don't want to fight and your brother's in the sport, you do it too, man. It was awesome. I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely awesome, but we see that it was mixed results with that.
Yeah.
So it is good to see him actually getting a fight in the weight that he is most comfortable at. And I did see a couple of pictures that were posted recently. He's looking pretty shredded comparatively to what he was coming in at heavyweight. Both of the Tafa brothers, not necessarily physical specimens at heavyweight. So he looks like he's taking this fight pretty seriously. And against Tuco Tokos, who has been nothing but unimpressive throughout everything that I have seen of him. The only thing that I could answer the question that I asked with is that maybe they were trying for the England angle. They're trying to build, they're always looking for English stars and more people to prop up that community because the English fan base is one of the best on the planet. So shout out to the English fans, of course, for being such rabid supporters of their fighters. But this guy ain't it. This is not the guy that you want to be backing. This is not the right horse for that race. So that being said, I do agree with you. I think that this is probably a tune-up fight to get that record a little bit better than 6-3 because both of these records are atrocious right now. 6-3 and 10-5. You need to get those wins up, and I think that they want Tafa to be that. Tokos, maybe there's a potential for something on the ground because both of the Tafa brothers are terrible on the ground. So if Tokos can get him down and lay on him, then perhaps there's something there, but he couldn't do that against either of the guys that he lost to in the UFC. Now, both of those guys do have better wrestling. So I would think that your only method of victory is going to be if Tokos tries to get this to the ground. And I think that Tafa probably swings his way through any of those attempts.
You're spitting here because I could totally see in the first round Tafa on his back looking at the clock, frustrated, like, God, here, wait till the round ends, and then
you've seen it so many times before.
Exactly. So it is hard for me to put stock into Tafa. I don't think I'll be betting on this one either. And I actually wanted to note also is the Tafas are unfortunately two of these people, and I don't think we see it that often, but you genuinely look at them fight and you can tell there's never going to be ground game. They are just never going to have it. They're never going to learn it. They're never going to be good at it. Maybe they can get up if they can just shove them really hard, but like that's about it. That's all they got. Like once they get the legs, they just fall to their butt and they lay on their back. Like that's all they have. And for most big guys, it is the best defense. Just don't give your neck and just lay on your back. Derek Lewis did it for 5 rounds against the most lethal heavyweight submission guy right now. Whatever you want to say. I think Tafa, if he gets taken down, we'll see why the line was close. But if he starches him, I don't know. I won't be surprised. This one's just really hard to gauge. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta believe that this is probably in the bag for Tafa, unless the circumstances change like that, like what we were just talking through. And I want to believe that that's going to be the case. But you're right. I mean, we've definitely talked about that because it's the same criticism of Tai Tuivasa, where it's just the ground game is not there. They have no interest in developing into full, well-rounded mixed martial artists. They are big strikers who want to strike, and that's it. So I would think that if Tokos has watched even a second of tape, then he's going to be immediately shooting. And if that's the case, then yeah, maybe it is a little bit more competitive than we're giving it credit for here. So for that reason, this maybe is a little bit more of a toss up than I'm giving, we were giving it credit.
Then we want to believe.
You're right. Exactly. Yes. That's well said. So, I mean, with all of that said, pick your poison if what you think is actually going to happen there. But my thing is, I've seen Tokos fight live. Him versus Navajo Sterling was in Tampa there where I was at. And I mean, like what you see on television versus what you see in real life is exactly the same, and it ain't good. So I gotta believe that Tafa is a more skilled martial artist, period, that he's going to be able to navigate, even if he does just go for the legs, that he'll try to keep it on the feet at all costs. But those guys do go down like a sack of bricks. So it's, like I said, pick your poison.
Yeah, this one's hard. I would not put money on this one, and that's just my betting advice, but to each their own.
Well, what have you got to pick, though?
I'm going to go with Tafa. I'm going to think Tafa gets the knockout.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'll go to Tafa. Yeah, I'll say the same. Honestly, I think the Tafa by knockout's probably pretty likely out of all of the possible likelihoods. I would say that pulls ahead a little bit more.
Yeah, and if anybody's keeping track at home, we've agreed on every single one of them so far, except Kennedy and Walter Walker, which we reluctantly decided to pick opposite.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts my feelings that I had to go that way. But keeping it interesting. So at least you got one to But we'll see if maybe some of these other ones will have different opinions about here.
I just don't think so.
I know. I probably not. There's a lot of good fights, but there are a lot of ones that the sense is and then we end up coming back and it's like, damn, well, we were wrong about that one. But
right.
Well, we'll see. Either way,
then we'll both be wrong, and we can at least rejoice and
say commiserate. Very, very true. Let's see what we got in this one. This is Vitor Petrino versus Austin Lane. This is one that had a good amount of conversation surrounding it in my chat on the previous watch along for the last event. So some strong opinions about this fight. But Petrino is 11-2, 3-2 in his last 5. His wins are over Tyson Pedro, Modestas Bukauskas, and Marcin Prachnio. Losses are to Anthony Smith and Dustin Jacoby. 2-fight losing streak currently, was undefeated before this skid that he is currently on. Austin Lane is 13-6, 1-3-1 in his last 5. Win over Robelis de Spain. His losses are to Justin Tafa. That is a rematch that he went into based on a no contest with Justin Tafa previously. So that is the one in that 1-3-1 at the end there. And his other losses are to Jonathan Janiz and Mario Pinto.
Mm-hmm. I would also like to note they didn't add the 1 on Austin Lane either. Maybe the no contest does not what ESPN counts. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess, because that is weird. Usually that last place is just for no contest, disqualifications, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know why they don't do that. But yeah. So anyway, what do you think about this fight?
I would think that I'm going to note first, Vitor Petrino is stepping up to heavyweight on this. So he was already a small light heavyweight and already got bitched around by literally Anthony Smith and Dustin Jacoby. Dustin Jacoby is not a horrible loss because he's actually making a little resurgence. He's getting a little glaze from the commentary. DC talk about how he's the best boxer that he's ever, shit like that. Vitor Petrino, though, stepping up to heavyweight against arguably the worst heavyweight on the roster. I mean, there's a lot of bad ones, but Austin Lane might be up there. Will Vitor Petrino avenge himself? Probably not in the way that we're hoping. Austin Lane is super chinny, and he definitely gets cracked, but he does decide to wrestle sometimes. And when he does, he got a unanimous decision against the dude who's about to fight 8 people in one night or some shit. So
well, that was going to be my point. You say that Lane is one of the worst. I don't want to say that he's one of the worst, but he certainly is one of the chinniest. You're definitely true about that. I mean, this guy gets knocked out by a strong breeze, unfortunately. And if you're fighting at heavyweight, brother, it's a recipe for disaster.
Is it a recipe for disaster fighting at heavyweight against a light heavyweight, though, is the real
No,
question.
and that's exactly. You led me right into the next point. No, it is not. Vitor Petrino has shown that there are sizable holes in the game that I think can be exploited pretty easily as far as what Lane brings to the table. Like you said, if he was able to muscle around Robellis, which granted, once you get Robellis to the ground, it's not that hard of a task, but you still got to get him there. And he was able to do that pretty easily. So I would say that Austin Lane coming into this is a pretty live dog, especially at plus 450. That is a tag that I think is screaming to a lot of people.
This is what sucks about this fight right here, is because no way in hell would I bet on Vitor as a favorite. No way in hell would I bet on Austin Lane, period. So it's just tough, you can't really win this one. Double-edged sword.
Fortune favors the brave, my friend. I'm saying
Dude.
that Austin Lane is, I'm riding with, my boy E-Money J. Shout out to him. He is always in the watch along chats, and this dude is a bit of a high roller, you would say. He's throwing around a decent amount of cash on some of these fights. He came in really hot saying that Austin Lane is the pick of the night. So I mean, now I'm not saying that I'm saying that, but I'm definitely agreeing with the thought process here because Petrino, another one that I saw live, I saw him versus Dustin Jacoby live. Now granted, Jacoby was having some trouble early on in that fight. It was later in the fight that he was able to find the knockout. So I mean, will Lane be able to weather the early onslaught when they're both fresh? That's going to be the $1 million question here. I think that early on in the fight, if Petrino is able to get some good shots in quickly, then maybe it doesn't go Lane's way. But if this goes even over a full round, I'm thinking that Lane is going to be able to just muscle him around. Like you said, he was already a small light heavyweight. He's coming in against Lane, who is massive. I mean, he is a very, very tall heavyweight. Now, granted that comes with a little bit of a smaller frame as far as the weight that he carries on his upper body, but I don't think that it's going to make that big of a difference when he's got him up against the cage and then doing pulling the trips. I think he's going to be able to get him down.
I mean, the way that I've seen Austin Lane get knocked out, like go back to the Mario Pinto one, he literally just threw a massive bomb from his fucking hip over the top. Vitor Petrino, he don't really strike like that. Like he's a little more measured, but he's also not. It's not the measuring that he has doesn't also bring like technicality. Like he's not a crazy striker, but he does have a little methodical way to him. So I don't think he's going to be able to find a chin with Austin Lane 6'6" in the air. He does have that lean back, but like Vitor's not going to throw a fucking massive bomb over his own body. And then, I don't know. I just don't see that.
And also let me take it a step back too. And just to touch on the Pinto loss for Lane, that was also his first fight in the organization, which definitely does not look great as well. So I'm hearing what you're saying there. But when it comes to Petrino, take it back to the Marcin Prachnio fight. That was one where he was very comfortable just going through the motions and wearing Prachnio down on the ground. I think that when you are in a situation like that, if that's what he thinks he's going to be able to lean back on, where you've got Lane doing that as a much, much bigger guy, he's not going to have the outcomes that he's looking for there. So if he's not going to be going for crazy overhand power shots, and he's thinking that he'll be able to fall back on the grappling, and Lane is going to be able to do the same to an extent, at least make it somewhat competitive in that department, I think that this ends up going Lane's way just by Petrino not having a game plan that's going to be suitable.
I think this is, with the line being what it's at, I'm glad that we broke it down because I do genuinely think that Austin Lane has a good chance. But when people look at Vitor Petrino versus Austin Lane and they look at the numbers, they're like, okay, knockout guy versus guy who gets knocked out. But they're not actually breaking down the X's and the O's. So I think what we've done is paint a pretty good picture for how Vitor Petrino flukes one more time. So.
Could very well be. So then all that being said, what's your pick?
I'm going to go Vitor Petrino just because I'm going to disagree with you. And I'm honestly not too sure. Like, I would not say Austin Lane's going to win this one, but you're not wrong in the way that you're thinking. I think it's a very good assessment. I'm going to be Vitor's side, because if I'm going to lose, I'll just pick the dude that I wasn't even confident in the first place. This whole matchup, I'm not confident in. So whatever.
I appreciate the hedging that you're doing right now, so that when you come back and you're wrong about this one, then you can always rest on that, and that's fine.
Yes.
That's a fine hedging, and I will accept that. So there you go. There's another down, a disparity there. People pick your poison on that one as well. But
no, officially say it. I got Vitor Petrino,
and I have Austin Lane.
There you go. Now go like the stream of who's got the better fucking opinion.
Exactly. I'm taking Lane by decision.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, moving on. Nate Landwehr. Nate the Train is back, people. Nate Landwehr versus Morgan Charrier. Landwehr is 18-6, 3-2 in his last 5 wins over Jamal Emmers, Austin Lingo, and David Onama. That ages decently. His losses are to Dan Ige and Doo Ho Choi, one of my favorite fighters. Those also are okay by me. Morgan Charrier is 20-11-1. How this guy has amassed that record in the time that he's been around, a lot of fighting in France.
Oh, they counted the one this time.
Dude, who the fuck knows? But yeah, so 20-11-1 for Morgan Charrier. He is 2-2 in the UFC. Wins over Manolo Zucchini and Gabriel Miranda. His losses are to Chepe Mariscal and Nathaniel Wood.
Yeah, this one is actually interesting because at the beginning of the week, I unfortunately said, love Nate, and he is a very fun time to watch, but Morgan should come in here and get this done. But 11 losses is pretty crazy. I mean, especially when most of them are on the regional scene. Like, you have 4 fights in the UFC, and I've seen you win 2 of them at least. So that means you have at least 8 losses outside of the UFC. Like, that's pretty nuts.
Also, his one of those wins that he has, that Manolo Zucchini, that's the last time that he fought. That was on the first card in France when MMA was legalized. So they were kind of scrambling for another French fighter, I believe. I think he's also French. Just putting that out there.
So what you're saying is he kind of made his way in here, not by the stigma that he left in the cage, but they were like, oh, we need one. We need another French guy.
Well, I mean, I think that he's a little bit better than your average run-of-the-mill current crop of French fighters, but that's kind of where the praise ends as far as I've seen. Because my thing is that, like you said, Landwehr he's a good, fun striker, and granted, he got pieced up by Doo Ho Choi, but that dude is a beast on the feet. Now, if Charrier got pieced up by Nathaniel Wood, that comparison there you go. I mean, I think that the point is made pretty clearly right there. I think that Nate Landwehr comes in better than Nathaniel Wood and for longer than Nathaniel Wood. I think that his cardio is going to be a little bit better, and the ability to keep the strikes going is going to be better. I mean, I thought that Charrier kind of folded a little bit in that fight, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I'm actually glad that you're swaying me. I know it's a tough dog to pick. When it gets to that plus 200 range, I definitely start to think maybe they know a little more than me. But I'm glad to think that you have faith in Nate. I'm now realizing how many losses 11 is. Like, that's more than Austin Lane, and I say that he's terrible. And Austin Lane's only got a few in the UFC by his account, according to Morgan Charrier. He's got at least 11 in the regional scene, whatever you want to say. I just think I would happily choose Nate on this. But for some reason, the line makes me believe that Morgan, I would have thought he was 20-1. I don't know if I just mistakenly read or something, because, the Nathaniel Wood loss, I do remember picking Nathaniel Wood by knockout, which was close. But Morgan Charrier never really strikes me as somebody with 11 losses. He doesn't really fight like that. He doesn't fight like somebody that I would say, oh, this dude loses all the fucking time.
See, I thought that as well. That, like, he comes in with this, like, dogged killer kind of, mentality. But then you go back and look at what the actual wins were. I'm telling you, the Manolo Zucchini one is like, that speaks volumes to me, because that was really, a French plumber. And then, the other win is a win over Gabriel Miranda, who cannot win a fight unless he submits you.
Yeah. So, he can't win a fight at all.
Well, I mean, that too, but I mean, but he does have a lot of submission wins. So it's like,
17.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, he obviously he can submit some people, just not this guy. And he ends up getting knocked out there. Okay. But, I'm saying, like, these losses for Nate to Dan Ige and Doo Ho Choi, both legitimate killers and legitimate scrappers as well. A loss to Chepe Mariscal ages pretty well. A loss to Nathaniel Wood, that signals problem to me.
What I always find key to note, and it's not because I think this person, let me just double check and make sure I got the stats right. It's not because I think this person is like overly great, but I do think it's a great yes. So Nate the Train has a submission win over Ludovic Klein. I just think that is very key to note. Like that's a dude that Gamrot didn't even, Gamrot's harmless, but like he didn't even have his way with him in the grappling. Nate was able to submit him when it got, third round submission is pretty nuts. I mean, the fight before that, he got knocked out by Julian Erosa in the first round, which is a horrible look. But I mean, Dan Ige and Dooho Choi, and actually with the Jamal Emmers one, Jamal Emmers was the favorite, I believe, going into that fight with Nate the Train, and Nate won. And then we all questioned why Jamal Emmers was even in that fight. And then he came back and smoked Gabriel Miranda, and we're like, okay, maybe he is actually decent. So maybe there's a little stock on Nate's name because he does have some impressive wins. Like I said, submission win to Ludovic Klein. Unfortunately, on his debut, he lost to Herbert Burns by knockout, though. Like, think about
Ooh.
that. Yeah, I don't know. It makes sense in some places, but the last five it makes sense. But
Well, then how
when you
about
get to
this?
those,
Well, and I'm hearing all of what you're saying
mhm,
on that. Then I would say that if they're both kind of all over the map, then you got to take it back down to the fundamentals. And I hate to all, I also hate to be the guy, but at the same time, where you're going region for region, and we talk about how France is still developing. I'm thinking that the overall well-roundedness of Nate is going to be the better, more decisive fighter than Charrier skill for skill.
I wouldn't even go that far because if I'm going to go ahead with Nate, if Nate's going to be my pick, what I'm banking on, and because Nate is this type of fighter, with all these other fights, and I'm a little unsure, these are not wild cards. Nate the Train is one of these guys. Like I said, submitted Ludovic Klein. Who would have ever guessed that? This
Right.
dude can do things that you don't really expect. He'll make the fight fun. He'll make the fight, interesting. And that's what's always key. If you have somebody that can always make whatever fight comes to them interesting, I don't think you can fully count them out. And Nate is one of those dudes that he'll fight through some stuff. He'll get finished. He's been finished. He's lost. He's also won, and he's very humble he's very humble in defeat and in victories. And I just think if he is going to win, this would be a great fucking dog win. Like that would be awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I want to hear him on the mic saying, "Look at this bicep," Yeah, exactly. The python's showing and everything. I like Nate. I'm a fan for sure, but I'm not letting it cloud my judgment here. I'm just really like, if after going through and putting the notes together, it started to click to me a little bit more because really, like, if you recall in the last fight, when it comes to Charrier, I was pretty high on the guy. I was like, this could be like the next wave of real French fighters that are going to change the opinion that we have about them just still being emerging. Because eventually, that's the thing we got to keep in mind as well, is the sport progresses. Eventually, France is going to theoretically be on the same plane as all the rest of the countries, right? I mean, the
Mhm.
longer that they're in the sport, the more that they're graduating higher level fighters. We've seen Fares Zayam do great things over there now. I mean, like, they're pushing up, Manon Fiorot, they're pushing up over time. So I was thinking that that Charrier was going to be one of those guys on that wave, but after seeing what I've seen, I'm reassessing.
Mhm. It is also key to note, Nate is 37 years old. Charrier is 29, which is very youthful in an MMA career. So I don't want to, be on the fence still, but I initially did not want to pick Nate. So I'm gonna ride with Morgan, and I think it's gonna hurt me if Nate wins because I won't be the guy that said like, "Oh, I've been riding with him from the beginning." That's just not what this is. Because unbiasedly, I think Morgan might be able to win this one, and I think that's all I'll say.
Yeah, no, and if that is the case, I'm not going to be shocked by that in the slightest, but I will be the guy to ride with Nate. So
Yeah.
there I'll take that because I like this will be a fine, like, this is one of the types of fights. If it's the fight that I'm picturing in my mind, at least this is going to be the type of fight that it's like, man, he might have lost, but like it's fine. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, man, they both really went out there, they did their thing. Both these guys, tough dudes. So I will take being wrong about that 100%, but I will ride with Nate on this one. Nate by knockout.
Honestly, this will probably be fight of the night.
Could be. Yeah, very well. Well, actually, I mean, I say that, but then we're rolling right into the next fight, which has the next fight is the people's main event. Did you have anything else about Nate?
No, I think I'm ready to go into the next one.
Let's get into it, because this right here is, I'd say, the people's main event. Calvin Kattar versus Steve Garcia. Steve, the knockout legend Garcia. Calvin Kattar is 23-9, 1-4 in his last 5. His win is over Giga Chikadze. His losses are to Josh Emmett, Arnold Allen, Aljamain Sterling, and Youssef Zalal. He is currently on a 4-fight losing streak, with those as the losses. Steve Garcia is 17-5, 5-0 in his last 5. His wins are over Chase Hooper, Shailan Nordenbeke, Melzakael Costa, and Sungwoo Choi, and also Kyle Nelson. All 5 of those wins are by knockout. He has the longest active knockout streak in the organization currently.
Yeah, the main machine, Steve Garcia, is another one of these guys that at the beginning of the week, I knew what my pick was going to be. I did not have any thoughts about it, because Calvin Kattar is one of these guys that I've been preying on his downfall a little bit. He's never been finished on the feet per se. I think that's what they say. Maybe statistically he might have got finished. The ref probably stepped in, something, whatever you want to say. But a clean finish, I don't think has happened for Calvin Kattar. He's getting up in age and he's at the end of his career. And you're going up against somebody who is legit threatening on the feet. And I will, if I'm going to have the devil's advocate here, Steve Garcia, 2 of the people that he knocked out in Melly Costa and Chase Hooper. Melly Costa is not, at least at the time, not the striker that, okay, he knocks out a grappler. Like, okay, cool, whatever. Chase Hooper, at a division that he wasn't necessarily comfortable at, also not a great striker. So I would like to point out, at least in those 2 instances, and probably with the other 4 on the win streak, these are probably not the world's greatest strikers by any means. So the fact that he's going in there and knocking them out does mean something, because he's able to finish fights. Like, that's awesome. Go in there and finish. If they're not on your level on the feet, go finish it. But I will say that I don't believe Steve Garcia has met his match in the striking as a Calvin Kattar. With that being said, though, I think Steve Garcia is going to finish Calvin Kattar on the feet for the first official time, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, no, honestly, I agree down the line. Sad to say, because I have liked Calvin Kattar in the past. I thought that there was a lot more potential for him in this sport than what he lived up to, unfortunately. And this downfall that he is on is really kind of sad to see, after seeing him rise through the ranks and do some pretty decent work on the feet over the years. But having seen what I have seen out of him through these fights, this last little skid that he's been on, it's becoming clearer and clearer that this is the beginning of the end. This is not like a skid that's going to be broken and he comes back better than ever kind of thing. Like, this is the eventual end of a career skid that we're looking at, as far as I can see. Steve Garcia, on the other hand, has been nothing but impressive. He is in the prime of his career, 33 years old. He's right in the sweet spot to be at his best. His wins, like you said, maybe not necessarily over the craziest strikers on the planet, but I don't think it's going to matter once he puts the power on Calvin Kattar, whether he can or will end up throwing hands, because Steve Garcia is going to beat him to the punch, quite literally, and that's going to be the end of the story.
I think what's key to know is, so I think I have this impression that Calvin Kattar is on his way out a little more than he probably is, because Youssef Zalal went on a whole rant about how he's a Hall of Famer and he's going to be in this and he's going to do that, basically writing the retirement speech for him. Yeah. And I think that's why I'm thinking that Calvin Kattar is kind of on his way out. So the way that I'm viewing this as of right now is, Calvin Kattar wants to go out on a high note. He wants a war to go out on, and then he's done. He wanted that with Zalal. Zalal didn't give it to him. He was trying to get it. He was tracking him down, and even at the end, you could see it that he wanted the fight. Didn't get it brought to him. He's going to get the fight brought to him now, probably finished, and then there you go. There's the end of your career. You did what you can. I know you're 37. It's not necessarily the oldest, but dude, you're 1 and probably going to be 5 at the end of this. Maybe call it, Steve Garcia is not the worst name to go out on. A lot of these fighters, and they care about that. They care about the name on their resume. If it's somebody that they've never heard of, they ain't going to retire after that shit. Unless you're Jose Aldo, who fucking retires to whoever the fuck he just lost to. But
Eamon Zabi.
Yeah, shit like that. Like, I think Calvin Kattar is one of those guys where he just, let me get one more solid war for the for the promotion. Like, that's what I want to do. Was I want to give it one more all, and then I'm out. And that's how I'm reading it. So
yeah, either that or he ends up being one of those guys that stays around a lot longer than he probably should, and kind of middles for a good amount of time. Gets a win here, gets a loss there, kind of thing. Just a checkered sort of middle player, which he's sort of forcing himself into, by nature of taking all of these losses if he does go that route. So this certainly would not be a bad loss to go out on if he does decide to do that. He might be one of those guys that wants to fight past the time. I could certainly see that being the case. And if that is the case, then this just ends up being another loss that pushes him farther into that middle range where he might find some success. So either way, I don't see it as that big of a problem for him to take this loss, whether he goes out on it or gets himself to a plateau that is more appropriate for where he's at in his career. Either way is fine. On the other side of this coin, we're talking a whole lot about Calvin Kattar, but Steve Garcia, that's we're talking two different trajectories of the line graph over here. Steve Garcia is on the up. A win over Calvin Kattar, I think this is a big enough name that puts him into a little bit higher of the stratosphere. Then he's really starting to hang with the sluggers, and then we really start seeing the competition and seeing what he's really made of.
I don't really care about all that stuff. The only thing that I care about right now is knowing that if Steve Garcia finishes Calvin Kattar, he leapfrogs Yusuf Zalal. And that is all that matters to me, is because it's the point proven on everything. If you are not exciting, you do not get shit handed to you. Steve Garcia comes out here and fights Calvin Kattar like a man. And yeah, he gonna get his name. He gonna have some stock to his name, and you best believe that he'll get a title shot here soon. Because the featherweight rankings, I don't know if you've noticed, we just got a new champ because somebody vacated, so we need people to fight this guy, and it's not going to be Mosvar apparently. It's not going to be Yair apparently. Give it 2 more fights. Let him finish Calvin Kattar. Give him 1 more, and it's a high ranked opponent. He goes out there, maybe doesn't finish them, but he's on the way to the belt after that.
I can't wait to come back to this show when they announce Steve Garcia versus Yusuf Zalal, and that fight is exactly the same.
I honestly would cry. I would cry because, in my mind, I feel like Steve Garcia would. I can do it. If I just finished Calvin Kattar, I will go fight Yusuf Zalal.
And what I will say to the devil's advocate opposite side of that equation is that if Calvin Kattar couldn't track Yusuf Zalal down, maybe Steve Garcia is the guy that can do it. You go and you get that knockout. You go find that knockout. Go get it.
Nobody was going to get a knockout in that fight when you're literally running away. But either way, that's none. I think Yusuf Zalal is more likely to say, I'm not fighting down if Steve Garcia is put on the table against him. That's the way that I see it. He knows this dude is a legit threat. Yusuf Zalal seems like the type of dude who's going to play it safe. He's obviously in the UFC for his second stint. He can't fuck it up. I cannot risk going to war with Calvin Kattar for 3 rounds.
No, yeah, and I would agree that he's probably like both of them. If they with the win for both of them, they're both probably going to be trying to shoot higher. But that being said, this could end up ushering in an era for featherweight that ends up looking a little bit like what we see at welterweight right now, where it's like a couple of like newer guys that are hungry for it. Now, granted, you can talk about the skill level and the differences in style, all that, but you have a couple of guys who are like in the equation that are new blood to the division, and then a champion that, we'll have to see what they can do against that, right. That kind of thing. So, I like the dynamics of what this sets up if this all goes to how we're thinking that it's going to. So Steve Garcia, go out there and get that knockout, continue the streak, be the man you want to be, because I believe that it is definitely possible.
Be the mean machine, buddy. Do that.
Yeah, me too. So, all right, we're both going Steve Garcia then?
We're going Steve Garcia. Yep.
I think so.
By knockout specifically.
Yeah, for sure. Most definitely. Get it by knockout. Be the one to notch that knockout over Kattar. That's going to be huge for you. Talk about a highlight that they're going to play over and over for him if that happens.
We didn't even talk about the line. I mean, minus 125. This is another one Vegas is dangling it. They're telling you, take this because Mike Davis ain't it. But this is the one right here. If you pay attention, this is it.
Yeah, so, most definitely. Absolutely. Keep your eye on that fight, because like I said, that's people's main event for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, the actual co-main event here is Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Gabriel Bonfim, the better Bonfim, I would say. Thompson is 17-8-1, 1-4 in his last 5. His win is over Kevin Holland. His losses are to Gilbert Burns, Bilal Muhammad, Shavkat Rachmanov, and Joaquin Buckley. Pretty much a who's who at welterweight there. 2-fight losing streak currently. There is a win, then another 2-fight losing streak, a win, a loss, a draw. He is extended candy caning. Wonder Boy is. On the other side of the coin, Gabriel Bonfim is 17-1, 4-1 in his last 5. His wins are over Chaos Williams, Ange Losa, Trevin Giles, and Monir Lezez, whoever that might be. His loss was to the GOAT Nicholas Dalby. 13 wins by submission on Bonfim's record.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing that I need to know. Wonder Boy is basically fish out of water when it comes to being on the mat. He does not have the abilities. I mean, not saying he doesn't have the ability. That's the wrong way to say it. He probably does, and he probably knows what to do. But at the age that he's at, and against the young people that are hungry and wanting to wrestle him into the mat, it's a little different. I think he just doesn't have the ground skills that are going to be able to compete with somebody who has a lot of submissions. We saw that with Shavkat, and I was even hopeful that because Shavkat, has his head so high, hands low, Wonder Boy would be able to catch him with something. I was very incorrect with that assessment. He got taken down right away. Even with a broke foot from Shavkat, he was able to finish him. So I think it's unfortunate that Wonder Boy is not the killer on the feet that he should be. He's always somebody that I've said, like, man, he really paints a great picture of what you could do with karate. Like, look how old he is, look how in shape he is, and all he does is it's karate. Like, that is basically what he does. And it's unfortunate that we're now seeing, like, well, he is an old man. Like, it's unfortunately coming for everybody. Age catches up. Father Time is unbeaten. And I think that is why Stephen Wonderboy Thompson will probably not have his way on the feet and will get taken down and submitted.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree. I've got 2 points about Wonder Boy here. Number one is that the lone win in his 1-4 in his last 5 was against Kevin Holland, I mentioned. That was another fight that I saw live. Kevin Holland was fighting specifically like a moron in that fight. He was trying to prove a point that was not the point he wanted to make. Like,
he fought better in that commercial.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if he brought limes.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, so my point is that Kevin Holland had a point to prove in that fight. That was an ill-advised strategy, and he paid the price for it. But had he fought more strategically and it played to his strengths, he would have won that fight. So that go ahead.
I was going to say, I think you're making a great point, because even with the fight with MVP, you could see Holland didn't necessarily take game planning too serious. He just walked in and said, I'm going to fight Wonder Boy. I'm going to fight MVP. He just showed up and did it. So yeah, Holland probably could have won that. He did break his hand, and I thought the fight was decently close, actually. If he wouldn't have broke his hand.
It certainly was. It was just that it was only close because he was choosing to keep it there. Yeah.
Yes, and that's why I think I'm agreeing with you. It's like Wonder Boy, in the one win that he has in his most recent 5, it's against somebody who wasn't necessarily taking him as serious as he should have been. So
sure,
that's the one saving grace that's holding on to why Wonder Boy has a chance. It's like, well, he beat Kevin Holland, but it's like, did he really,
right,
kind of deal.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Yeah. You're saying what I'm picking up what I'm putting down there.
We got to take each other down and shit like that. Like, Holland landed on him and stood up. There was plenty of times where you could see that it wasn't like the most competitive matchup. It was more just a sparring match between.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was definitely a hard spar if it was that. But I mean, it was I think that Holland was like intentionally, knowing that Wonder Boy is a striker, he was like, let's make it entertaining for the fans and we'll strike with each other. And it's like, okay, well, then that's the fight you get from that. But so that's point number one. Point number two is that after the Joaquin Buckley loss, everybody was saying, even if he won or lost that fight, that like, is this going to be Wonder Boy's last fight? So the conversation about Wonder Boy retiring has been in the ether for a while. We talked about Calvin Kattar possibly fighting past his prime, or, past his sell-by date. Wonder Boy, there's no question about it. He's already doing it. He's just still doing it at a decently high level at this point. And you're seeing the results of that time over time at this point. So, I mean, I think that it's probably time for Wonder Boy to hang it up, and this is going to be the nail in that coffin, sadly.
It's just, again, you got to just know what the UFC wants. They want Gabriel Bonfim to have Stephen Wonderboy on his resume they want to win here because then he's going to have a main event that he'll headline in the Apex or whatever the fuck it comes out to be. And that's just the story that she wrote. You know, Stephen Wonderboy he's an opponent, but he's not necessarily somebody that they think is going to win, I don't think.
Yeah, well, unlike Eduarda Mora, I am fine with Bonfim having that notch in the belt. You know what I mean? Because he's a talent that I think could, you know, make that work to his advantage. You have a name like that, you have a skill set that backs that up.
And you have a brother that's not as good. That's literally all you need to be champ.
That is possibly the best base for MMA in general, is having a less skilled sibling. But so all of that being said, Bonfim getting this win, I think is perfectly fine. I think that it's going to make perfect sense. I think that, you know, Wonderboy is really, you know, he's at that point where you're right. Cause like the organization, you know, the Wonderboy and Weidman, that whole little clique is all very tight with the organization. So I think that they're being a little bit more favorable to him. Maybe not, they've not always been. So, you know, there was that whole issue with him with not taking the fight when his opponent missed weight and then them not paying and whatever. I think that all got sorted out. Point is that Wonderboy has been a team player for the organization. He treats them well. They treat him well. I think that goodwill is maybe overextending a little bit in a fight like this at this point, because it's like, there has to be a limit for for Wonderboy's sake. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, you don't keep giving this guy such high level matchups, you know?
Luckily, well, speaking of the high level matchups, that's what I was going to actually bring up. It's like this, because my initial thought was like, this could be his last opportunity to, you know, retire in front of a pay-per-view crowd or whatever you want to say. But this is pay-per-view, right? Yeah. No, this is a fight night. Well, either way, in front of a crowd, that is. Sure. But as I said that in my head, I thought, well, it's Wonderboy. They could give him as many fun matchups as they want for as long as he wants to do it. But I think it makes sense for him to call it after this one. I think that just adds up.
Yeah, I mean, it would have made sense for him to call it after the Buckley loss. So, you know, I would have been fine with that too. Wonderboy, he's had a great career. I mean, you know, he's a dude who has gone out there and put on great fights. He's been in the top of the division for a good long time. He's a fan favorite. Everybody likes him. He's the nicest guy in the sport, kind of thing. Like, there's nothing wrong with him going out at this point. Like, you've done what you need to do in this sport. Yeah, maybe, you know, you didn't get to the belt, or, you know, you didn't hold that gold the way that you wanted to or whatever, but I think that the career is fine. I think that this loss should be a signal to him that, you know, it's passing him by. I mean, the age differential alone should show that you're not going to be able to hang with a 27-year-old guy. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. All right. So we're both going Bonfim on this one.
Bonfim by sub.
Yeah, Bonfim by sub is that's calling everybody's name, I would say.
Actually, one more thing, just with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, because they've been doing a lot of not fan casting. They've been officially casting for the Street Fighter movie. I don't know if you've noticed it.
I have not. I did not know that. Okay.
A lot of WWE guys are in it. Just fun fact. But I think if they were to do you know, the Mortal Kombat movie right and do justice on the character Johnny Cage, you have to have Wonderboy Thompson. And I don't get why he hasn't been called up. They got Carl Urban to play him. That doesn't give Johnny Cage vibes at all. He doesn't do karate at all, I don't think. I could see Wonderboy right now in an alley and be like, well, that's fucking Johnny Cage right there.
But can he act, though?
Who gives a shit? He could do the kicks. You know?
Fair. Yeah, I mean, it's a Mortal Kombat movie. I guess it's not necessarily about the performance.
And you know what's actually funny is, even you bring that up, I'm pretty like Johnny Cage's character is an actor, so he's always just like pretending to be in character so shitty acting could kind of make it work if he's always like pretending he's still in a movie, but it's like, obviously he's just bad at acting. You know, I don't know. I think it could work, but you know,
I'm with it. And Thompson's going to have many, many possible career paths after he hangs up those gloves. So
100%.
Yeah. All right.
He could go redo the Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. Oh my goodness. We could have so many things done for Wonderboy right now.
Yeah, and again, he's got the resources as well. He's liked by the organization, so you know, throw him some bucks.
He's got the image too. I mean, when you say Wonderboy could be in a movie, guys,
total package, absolutely, and he'll do just fine after fighting.
Yeah.
All right, well, rounding this whole thing out, the main event of the evening is Derek Lewis versus Taliesin Teixeira. Lewis is 28-12, 2-3 in his last 5. His wins are over Rodrigo Nascimento and Marcos Rodrigo or excuse me, Marcos Rogerio de Lima. His losses are to Jailton Almeida, Sergey Spivak, and Sergey Pavlovich. Teixeira is 8-0, 1-0 in the UFC after a win on the Contender Series as well. His win in the UFC was over Justin Tafa. Started his career with an armbar submission win. Then every other win has been by knockout. 8 fights, all finishes, 1 sub, 7 knockout active streak.
The one thing that I think is key to note that I was completely right about, and I don't know if I said it in this manner, but I did have my speculation of why Derek Lewis was pulled from the headline of the fight late last year. And
Yeah.
we never had any answers to that. But
Right.
the answer is actually given right here. There was a better prospect for him to fight. They didn't want Deniz to be the one. They quickly realized they must have been watching him like at the gym, made the call. Dana, he ain't it. He's not it. Give him Tibero and just see what happens. So I think that's genuinely what happened because Taliesin is somebody who people are thinking is the next breed of heavyweights. And as much as I would like to believe it, I don't think you cannot believe it in your heart to say that against the opponent who is the greatest at what heavyweights do. I mean, it's genuinely hard for me to wrap my head around the guy who does the heavyweight thing of fat guy punch, but he does it the best ever. You're going to say the guy who's won one fight in the UFC is going to come out and smoke him. Now, I don't agree with that, but I will also like to, people are like, bro, he's 6'7", he's a monster. It's like Derek Lewis has knocked out Volkov in the 3rd round after getting his ass whooped. I mean, I just don't think you can confidently write off Derek Lewis because he's somebody who, again, coming off of 2 knockouts, by the way, it's not like this is somebody who's, 1-5 in their last 4, and then you get the prospect. No, this is somebody who just came off of a flying knee 1st round finish at heavyweight. So he's obviously still locked in. Like I don't know, you guys may not believe it, but Derek Lewis is he is the greatest heavyweight knockout artist of all time. So the fact that he can come out here and knock somebody out should not surprise you at all.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of those points. I think that if you roll the tape back a little bit farther, though, I think that that's probably what people are more basing their opinions on because, he is winning a little bit now recently, but you got to remember he was on a pretty solid loss streak for a little minute there, and it looked like he was checked out for a while. So I don't know what switched in his mind that got him back into being locked in. Like you say, hey, perhaps it is the money. That's he is definitely a prize fighter and very open about that.
Very handsomely paid by the organization.
Of course, well, when you're knocking people out like he has, of course he is. That's nothing wrong there. But then also getting finished as well does not look great. So, there was my point is that he was on a little bit of a patchy skid there and has only recently been reestablishing. But that all being said, you're going up against a guy who is a clean slate except for a bunch of wins. So stacking that up, it is an interesting equation. Now, I mean, you're absolutely right that this dude, Derek Lewis is not only, the greatest as far as knockouts.
He's a Hall of Famer. Let's just say
he's easily a Hall of Famer for sure. But I think that the other aspect of it is that he's such a long time. You would talk about a savvy veteran at this point. There's nothing that Derek Lewis has not seen at heavyweight inside of the cage. And the Volkov comeback win, I think, speaks to that as well. The fact that he could dig deep enough to get that is why I think people were so confused by him being on the skid, because some of those losses when he was on that losing streak were pretty fucking bad. The one in his hometown in Houston, where he crumbled in that fight. It was just, couple of shots. It was early. It was first round finish. Mm-hmm. So, it's like things like that can sway your opinion one way. Taliesin Teixeira, we just don't have enough tape at a high level to be putting all of our horses behind this guy, I would say. No?
I agree. I just think it's going to really suck for the heavyweight prospect that everybody thinks is Tom's next opponent at some point. If he comes out here and we see why people should not have a leap like this, and we've seen it more recently. Alonzo Menefield has had some people in light heavyweight that are literally on their debut, people that are jumping up the rankings way further than they should have reached. And I don't think he won both of those, but it should show you that there's a level to the game that they're able to surpass over these debut prospects kind of deal. Will Derek Lewis do a savvy veteran move and take him to decision? No. And it definitely won't happen like that. But will he rock Taliesin and get him on the ground once? Maybe. Maybe he won't get up. Or maybe Derek lays on his back and Taliesin does nothing. I mean, if Jailton wasn't able to get the submission, granted, he wasn't necessarily trying, but Taliesin hasn't done a sub since the first fight that he's had. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to gauge if he's going to. Derek Lewis infamously doesn't believe in jiu-jitsu and has proven that it doesn't work time and time again. Will Taliesin, except well, he didn't get subbed, so I mean, I'll give him credit there.
Right.
Give him credit there. But will Taliesin be the one to prove him wrong? Probably not. Will he stand with him? Probably. Will Derek Lewis find the shot? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. This one's really hard, but I do think Derek Lewis, this is just way too big of a jump, especially because like you look at his age. Okay, he's 40, but he's at heavyweight. Like normally they are older. Like that's just what it is. But they're not necessarily that old always. But we've seen people around this age still have good performances. This is a guy coming off 2 great performances. I just don't see how you guys have so much faith in a guy who's 8-0.
Yeah, I think that the faith is coming from the spottiness of recent era Derek Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a flying knee knockout certainly looks impressive, but you want to talk about fluke. I mean, that's, I don't think that anybody necessarily could have thought that that was going to connect and actually get the knockout. You know what I mean? And so it's like, yeah, that's awesome that happened. But like, do you put that, how do you weigh that in the grand scheme of things? And like, I think that's the issue here.
When you're weighing it in the grand scheme of things, you have to just know that was 1 knockout of his 18.
Sure.
So, and that's 18 UFC caliber heavyweights.
Yeah.
And these are people past their debut. This is people that have been battle tested at the division. Yeah, maybe the competition that they've been facing is not very good because we know the UFC heavyweight division is sloppy. But Derek Lewis has floated around facing the people who actually make it to something worthy in the heavyweight division. Taliesin hasn't done any of that yet. I mean, if he does beat Derek Lewis convincingly, he doesn't even have to do it convincingly, to be honest. If he beats Derek Lewis, I will have a little respect on Taliesin, even though I'm not trying to act like I hate him. It looks like in his picture he's got a little new tattoo ink, so you might want to be worried on the training and not the tattoo parlor. But Derek Lewis, I think the time... Listen, Father Time is not catching up to him yet. If he was on a 5-fight skid and we were begging for him to get cut after last fight, okay, sure, Taliesin comes in and mops him. But Derek Lewis is he could be in the fucking prime of his career. You would never know. He's one of those people that you don't really know because he's always playing a character. So will he come out here and have his A game on? I don't know. But I would like to believe that he's going to go out here and get this one done.
I can understand the desire for that. And trust me, I mean, I don't think that there's a single person in this sport who's not a Derek Lewis fan. You know what I mean? He's one of the most beloved fighters on the roster, and with good reason. And that's another reason why, while he was on that skid, that they kept him around. I mean, they asked Dana point blank. They're like, do you think that he should retire? And he's like, I'll do whatever Derek Lewis wants to do. Like he can stay around and, continue on as long as he wants to go. So if Derek Lewis in his own mind thinks that he is still of the caliber to be taking these fights and wants to continue on, then I got to believe that there's still something left in there. But, I don't know, man. I mean, like, it's hard to say because, like, I agree. I'm also of the same thought process that a win over a Tafa brother does not scream any kind of impressiveness off rip as your first win in the organization. And then to take a jump to the greatest knockout artist in the division is a massive, massive climb that we've seen people fail at before, even people less talented than Derek Lewis getting the job done on these new guys.
This is somebody that we don't even know if they've been cleanly punched before, and if you don't think that Derek will land one, okay, fair game to you. Sure, we'll go with that. But I think Taliesin is in for a world of hurt because when Derek Lewis hits people, they don't fucking move. So
true. Well, what about the potential ground game that maybe Taliesin is better on the ground than Jailton at actually finding the submission though?
We might honestly figure out that Taliesin is just not that good on the ground. Like, okay, he gets one sub in his first fight, and it's probably against a dude who's never going to fight again. And then he goes out here and realizes, oh, I just got to stand with him. Like I'm huge. Like I'm massive and I can throw my hands. I don't have to grapple with him. And he probably doesn't have the skill set that we're thinking. Like he's not Jailton Almeida on the ground. I can guarantee it. If he was, he would be utilizing that skill set as one of his main artillery weapons instead of relying on the striking. You know, if he was that confident that he could just get anybody down and just choke them out, he would be doing it. But no, he's more confident that he can stand with them. They're not going to hit me because I'm too tall and I have long arms, and I'll just swing and hope for the best. And I think, again, if that's his game plan, rude awakening's coming. Derek Lewis is going to land at least one shot. He's not going to land 0 shots. Like, I mean, he's going to hit, bro, at least once. So
Yeah, I think that the only problem that I have is that spottiness that I was talking about with Lewis, and where his head is at any given time. Because, like, you know, if it wasn't for these recent wins, then he would have been on that skid that you were talking about, you know, and like,
that's how it always is. You're always losing until you get the win.
Well, yeah, I understand that. Yes, maybe the way that I said that might, it's like, yeah, that's obvious. But I mean, like, more of what I'm talking about is that he seemed like he was trajectorying that way. Like, his trajectory looks like it was going that way. And so him picking himself back up, that was unexpected. And so that aspect of it, I think, is concerning, because it's like, yeah, you know, you do muster this, you know, you dig deep and you find those wins, but how long can that last if it's only a speck of what it used to be? You know what I mean? If that same desire might not be there, even if the desire is there, if the physicality can't be there, huge guy still trying to throw his body around at 40 years old. I mean, there's a lot of factors as that part of it. I mean, like, there are too many what ifs right now when it comes to Derek Lewis. And it's like, it gives me pause, at least. You want to talk about fights that I'd be hesitant to bet on. This is certainly one of them.
Yep, I agree. I think betting for the finish is probably the best method.
Yeah, just going, you know, a fight ends by finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. I would probably agree there. But if we have to choose, you're choosing Derek Lewis to win?
I'm going Derek Lewis by knockout.
All right. Well, devil's advocate then, I will take Teixeira Teixeira, but I am not confident in the slightest. Just, again, a guy coming in too early to the game. We've seen all these hotshot guys that they've been trying to prop up get pushed way too quickly into these big fights and it not going their way. So I like, you know, for the sake of the show, I'll go with Teixeira Teixeira. But you know, if Derek Lewis comes out here and shows him what's what as far as the high levels of the sport goes, perfectly fine by me.
Hell yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, now you have it. You got a couple of, you know, different opinions here. So you can go to the channel of your choosing, like the channel that you think is more accurate with their predictions. And then you can also watch us on our individual watch-alongs, watching this very event to see in real time who gets these things right. So you can do that with me at youtube.com/@YamaShow. And Chase, I know you can tell them where they can find you.
I will obviously be watching all the UFC content that comes out on, you know, Saturdays and Tuesdays, since Tough is now running. And then when the Contender Series starts, we will be reviewing that as well. But that will be happening on youtube.com/@CPSmalls. And then, of course, on Twitter, sometimes I say some funny things, x.com/@CreativePartin, PARTIN.
I am at Yama Show on Twitter and on Instagram as well. I sometimes post some funny stories on Instagram. Go and follow on Instagram at Yama Show. We will again be doing those watch-alongs on Saturday, and be back again tomorrow for Tough. You doing another after the show is already aired, Dealey?
Yes. Yep. I will most likely do it after the show airs at 11 p.m. or it'll be on Wednesday, but I'm not too sure yet.
All right, fair enough. Well, I will be watching live, so if you want to hang out for the Ultimate Fighter, come on and chill out and watch the show with me. That's always been a lot of fun. This has been an interesting season. I wouldn't say it's the best, but certainly entertaining enough, and we have a good time on the watch-alongs. New video is out on the channel, as I mentioned, about Donald Trump and the fights that are potentially taking place at the White House. Go and give that a watch and a like if you enjoy it. Hopefully some new content coming out soon, and potentially a good amount more coming out in the near future. So keep your eyes on both of our channels. And until next time, everybody, have a great night. Have a great rest of your week. And as always, fight on.
Game.